Yeah, we're going to go live. Old school intro. Here we go. Join our Patreon.
Do you want to know? We are MythVision.
What is up, everybody? Derek Lambert, your host, MythVision Podcast. We have 30,000 plus subscribers. In fact, I think we hit 30K, I'd say 5-6 days ago, and we're growing rapidly. We're continuously getting information out there, educating people, which is the whole goal, letting them understand the myths that we were once raised to believe were literally true, deciphering those and stuff. So all of you guys tuning in early, Stephen, I can't quite give pine points. I give the myth points, right? So you guys are mythologized to a deeper level every time you show up early. You guys will just be so mythologized at some point. You're practically on par with all of the top deities. You have your own pantheon and the whole nine. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a friend I'm going to introduce you guys to and let you guys know the work that I have been doing lately. I'm talking about, I don't know if I've done this much mental exercise working in my life. I have a pretty good work ethic. I came from construction. I was a supervisor. I ran crews. I read blueprints. We made sure shit was getting done efficiently. But I am working harder than I think I've ever worked on this channel, or even period, when it comes to computers and things like that. I did 72 videos, and these aren't counting the lives with Dennis R. McDonald and Richard Carrier. Also constantly doing new lives. I'm engaging with Islamic material. I talked to a scholar, and I have 7 clips that I've cut up from a 2-hour interview I did with Dr. Shadi Nasir, and those are on the Patreon as well. Busted my butt, but I'm not alone doing this. So for everybody who is tuning in, this gentleman behind the scenes, Gnostic informant, my friend Neil, you have to subscribe to him. What's up, Neil?
We are MythVision.
MythVision. Yeah, man. Look, seriously, you've been a major help on some of the content I've had to shift off to some other people that are editing, right? I've got Kip Davis helping me edit 3 of the videos I did with Richard Carrier and Dennis McDonald, taking a deep dive into the mimesis and some of the pericopes of the adulterous woman or the sinful woman. Hector and Jesus's death, right? Does this mimetically connect to the Greek literature? Well, I had to have this edited on a whole nother level, but you've taken it on yourself to help me edit some of the actual in-persons with like Richard Carrier alone or Dennis alone, and all that's on Patreon. I already launched one yesterday. So I'm glad, man. I'm thankful for you, bro.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be a part of it, man. It's good. It's amazing work. Like Dennis McDonald, Richard Carrier, just dropping bombs of knowledge and amazing little tidbits of information that I didn't know. I mean, it's
right.
It's good stuff. It's real scholarly work. You know what I'm saying?
Seriously, everybody, look, my friend Gnostic informant, he's like me. And I don't mean this in any bad way. I mean, this is good. Like when I first started MythVision, I was like into anything that wasn't like strict literal orthodoxy. It was like, hold on, why are there different versions of Christianity floating out there? And that caught my attention. And so he has a channel, Gnostic Informant. I ask you all so kindly who love my channel to please subscribe to his channel. You're not only doing this because I'm helping him for helping me, right? He's helping lift a lot of the burden of editing. Most of these videos that I'm not going to be able to do in a timely fashion, he's helping me pump it out. So you guys get to see what I did when I was in California for 7 days with Richard Carrier and Dennis McDonald. Please take the time to go subscribe to him. I even commented it in the comments here, but I'll post it again right now before we get started on the Hangout. Anyone and everyone that loves the channel would be interested in jumping on this Hangout. We're going to open that door up here in just a bit. there in the comment section. Go subscribe to my friend. All right, there's a plug, bro. I don't know what kind of plug that was. If it was a butt plug or if it was something else, I'm not really sure.
Probably the best plug I ever got.
It's the best plug, man. Intro was old school for those tuning in. And someone asked, who's MythVision? I'm not going to answer that question there, my friend. I'm going to ask these two gentlemen.
Hey, buddy.
Who is MythVision? Nathan, Neil, who's MythVision?
He's a very beautiful guy.
I'll send you a check in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
What? What'd you say, bro?
In terms of, I honestly don't know what the conversation was just before I dropped in, but I mean, in terms of the channel and what you do, I guess you're sort of exploring questions around religion, belief formation, history, stuff like that. It seems like your focus broadly is on the textual documents behind religions, but like you do a bunch of other stuff as well. But that's like your kind of specialization.
That's well put. I got a super chat here from my good friend Abdullah and Jordan. Hold on. Jordan, thank you, my friend. 30K. This happened pretty quick. I didn't know it was going to grow this damn fast. And it's going to probably be way up there soon, too. I mean, the content is unique. Like Nathan said, I'm focusing on the foundations that, like, really, if you want to get to the source of these things, what do they actually mean? That's where it comes down to is looking at that. Everyone, please, Abdullah Samir, don't subscribe to this channel. He has it. Well, yeah, you can. Don't mind me, actually. Subscribe to the Abdullah Samir channel. But it's the Friendly Ex-Muslim channel. And I've got content coming out with Dr. What is it? Dr. Is it Nasir? I get messed up when I read his name, Samir. I think it's Nasir. And anyway, make sure you go subscribe to him, man. Thank you for the super chat, bro. You didn't have to do that. I really appreciate it.
And to add to what Digital Gnosis is saying, you kind of started a genre, your own genre here on YouTube is like this whole entire MythVision genre. Like I'm following what you're doing because I like it so much. I'm making videos about the Bhagavad Gita, the origins, when it was written. It's fun to do this type of work. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
the response is out there. Like people are eating this stuff up. So, I mean, you're one of the pioneers of this. And Digital Gnosis, you too. You guys really started this whole genre of what this is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think mine's a bit different in that I just don't put as much effort though into the actual text as Derek does. Like you know, like in terms of having those interviewing those scholars and like reading that content and dealing with that stuff. I guess I find it interesting. It's just not something that I don't know. I have a sort of desire to go into in the way that Derek does. I mean, there are other channels out there, you know, like New Testament Review podcast, of course, where they're like PhDs in it, Digital Hammurabi, where they're looking at it in a different way. But I think what's interesting as well is like Derek's story arc of going like being a Christian, but then being like a Jesus mythicist at a certain point, and then going, well, maybe I'm not as confident in the Jesus mythicism, and then just having this sort of intense interest in the textual documents themselves. It's pretty interesting from that perspective and unique.
And it's become like an arena for ideas, and it's being, you know, Derek, you're basically popularizing an arena for ideas, not even just New Testament, but like just like theology, history, and everything that overlaps. You know what I mean? Like that's really what it is.
Appreciate you guys, seriously. You know, I think it's interesting when people can't even settle what their text actually say. So people just fall on what they want it to say or what their tradition tells them it says. And to me, I think what really helped me with my doubting, I think doubting helped me stay clean off drugs and alcohol. I know someone would go, wouldn't that put you like in like some type of stressful situation where you're like bearing this burden of like, I don't know. And now I'm like scared. For me, the doubt made me realize I had to get comfortable with not knowing the answers. And like being okay with not knowing became a philosophy for me, meaning like, I don't think we can know unless we have better data. We need a lot better data. And just having that kind of foundation made me realize anyone who's that dogmatic and certain about things, it must be subjective, or the perception from their particular tradition that's kind of enforcing how you should view these things. And so I've like started realizing, okay, there's no reason anyone should be that dogmatic. And I think when you watch MythVision, anyone who's like open-minded will walk away a couple notches down from their confidence level, being so certain on what they think the Bible teaches. They think what Judaism is true. They think what Christianity is true, or Islam, as I'm starting to venture into that kind of area. My goal is to get people to realize, why am I so confident and so dogmatic? And then looking at that guy, he's my enemy. They're my enemies because they don't think like me. Right. How do I know what I'm thinking is actually true about these very texts? And then you got channels like Nathan who take more of a philosophical approach, and they say, your epistemology, like you should tone it down as well. Like you should realize there's so many ideas out there that could potentially make sense. And I've got to set you up with a Muslim guy who's big into philosophy named Khalil. Really nice guy. Don't know if you know about him.
Is he the EA show, the guy who converted to? Yeah.
I don't get into the whole philosophy thing. Not saying I won't. Dr. Josh, come on whenever you can, bro. I know you got to focus on your channel right now. You're doing a live right now. So anyway, just letting him know. But he's big into philosophy. And of course, he was, I guess, taking a affirmative position that atheism was like absolutely certain and true, that kind of position. And I don't know why you would have that kind of confidence in
I think he was a Christian before that as well, right? I
believe he was raised.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned something earlier about admitting that you don't have all the answers. And there's a freedom that comes from that. When you admit that I don't know everything and that there's stuff to learn, and I need to learn things, and everybody has different viewpoints, and try to understand different viewpoints, there's a freedom that comes from that.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, it's sort of like it's a breath of fresh air to watch somebody who is just looking for pure truth and nothing else, wherever the truth leads you. Even if the truth led you down to become a Muslim, which it doesn't, right. But if it did, it did. It's just following the truth. It's not being dogmatic and trying to debunk these ideas. It's actually saying, what is the real truth here? And then that's what I'm going to follow. And wherever
look, the bottom line is truth seems to be a term used that I think is subjective. And I think what I'm trying to do when I use the term, I guess you'd say truth here, is like, obviously your perception of what it is different than this guy's and that guy's. And I want people to realize at the end of the day, so what? You wear Nikes. You think Nikes are the pair of shoes. And then really Adidas are just as good of a competitor, right? Eventually Adidas will actually have more members than the Nikes, Christians. So Muslims will have more members than the Christians at some point. Next thing you know, what are they going to do? They're going to say, we have the truth because, well, we have more members now, or more people believe it. I want people to start breaking down those walls. I want to try
I think, oh, sorry, you weren't finished yet.
Say what?
You weren't finished yet. I was about to start saying something, but you hadn't finished your sentence.
Please.
Sorry.
No. Jump in.
I think it's something like that, you know, that at least there's good enough reasons not to be so confident that you sort of think that you have the right to persecute people, right? Like, you know, the Catholic Church, for example, would historically have argued, well, because we are the church, because we've got the keys to the kingdom, you know, Jesus instantiated us. Oh, no, he's here. It's
oh, shit.
And because evolution is true.
Is this thing? Hello, testing. Hello, folks. I can't figure out if this thing's working. Ken Hovind here. If you can hear me, Dinosaur Land. I just want to say I don't know why you're laughing. I'm headed to hell, each and every one of you. So I just wanted to say, if you can hear me, hello, testing. I just want to say congratulations. Gracious, that's a handsome man. Yeah, I'm here to help. And so, congratulations on 30,000 subscribers. Probably about a 15th, maybe a 14th of what I have. Of course, I like that number 14. It's like the whale penis. Okay, yeah, a bunch of perverts. But yeah, just congratulations on making so many subscribers. And of course, I hope you do repent and come to the saving knowledge of the truth. But of course, I don't know if you can hear me. Is this thing on? I'm not sure. But yeah. So anyway, I just want to say thank you for having me on, and come on down to Dino Adventureland and get my series of $49.99 each. Okay, I'm here to help.
Oh my God, dude.
The glasses sold it.
Oh, dude, Dr. Josh is too funny.
That was great.
I'm serious. He's too good at that, by the way.
I was listening on the Skylar Fixture show the other day when he was on, and I was thinking the way that Josh tells stories and stuff, he could actually be a stand-up comedian. You know, like in the delivery, the way he tells the stories, like the way he builds up the punchline and stuff. He's actually got that skill, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think so. I love Dr. Josh.
He holds the title of the world imposter of Kent Hoban. Only one person.
I don't know anyone who can do it. Yeah, that
only one person has that title. That's him.
Nobody's good at that like him. And then, he did try to do Otangelo, and I started hearing him, and he's like, dude, you're too good at that too. Something's wrong here.
Well, Derek, I can
Yes.
do Otangelo.
Yes. I had to block him, dude. I can't after a while, bro. It just
I know it can be difficult.
It's so difficult. I mean, like, I don't know. I deal with drug addicts all the time and help them, and my patience gets tested when that's happening. But like, you're not on drugs, and it's like, whew, I don't know. No comment. Indo, thanks for the super chat, bro. Woohoo! Appreciate it, man. Seriously, I can't tell you guys how awesome it is to continue to grow this community. And one thing I do want to do as I grow that I think is very important when you have a large following on YouTube is to help the other channels expose them more to the public. We need a community of people, especially when my channel can only do so much, right? I'm only one guy, and the goal is to get people acquainted with some of the smaller channels because everybody knows Cosmic Skeptic and Genetically Modified and the whole nine, like these really big successful channels. I think that I could leverage this and help people, who don't have that exposure. So I really do appreciate that, man. And then Craig Ford, thank you, my friend. John White, he says, congratulations, Derek. So pleased to see a friend succeed. Your work ethic is phenomenal. Thank you, man. I can't tell you how hard it is. Been putting in that labor, no joke. And my buddy here again, Neil, with Gnostic Informant, he's already edited. How many have you done, bro, of the new videos?
I think like 6 or 7.
6 or 7 we've done. And I don't know if you know about this. You knew about my trip, right, Nathan?
I know you've been on a few trips recently, so I don't know which one you're referring to. The one
California...
to go and see Derek McDonald, or was that earlier?
Dennis, yeah.
Dennis, sorry, McDonald.
And Richard, yeah. Richard. Yeah, dude. I'll show you guys the thumbnail sneak peek. I gotta do the shameless plug on the whole Patreon thing. But Matthew Thiessen? You ever heard of him?
No, I don't. No.
Dude, this is going to be a really good one here, by the way. He's Paul within Judaism school. So this one, the 12 disciples or apostles, are they historical? Dr. Price asks Dennis this, and I record that on high def. Church Father Papias, is he trustworthy, especially with his cartoonist approach to Judas's death? Gospels and the Greek epics, like mimesis. This gets into that whole issue. This is the thing I'll say, and I really want to do a video on this. Tell me what you think of this angle. Christians all the time are willing to admit, sure, the Old Testament, yeah, there's a mimetic connection. Duh, Jesus is like the new Moses, the new Elijah, the new this, the new that. And they're kind of borrowing from the Old Testament. But they have no problem with saying, but that was a prophecy, or somehow they're still linking it to that. Imagine if the gospel authors are using Greek epics to create their narrative. Now, what would that do to Christian apologetics? I'll tell you. Christian apologists have no problem running to the Old Testament because what's the New Testament? A fulfillment of the Old Testament. But what if you go to pagan literature that has Athena and Zeus screwing boys and girls and raping kids and the whole nine, right? That's all in the Odyssey and Iliad and all of that. And here you have a New Testament author not only using Hebrew Bible, but borrowing from Greek epics, which is pagan, or if you will, polytheistic. And so now they're utilizing this trope from Greek epics to create their own narratives in the Gospels. What will that do? Anyway, that's on the Patreon. Heavenly Crucifixion. Dennis tells you his actual thoughts and why he thinks it's preposterous. Pretty much why he thinks mythicism's ideas don't make sense.
And these are all in person, right?
In person, dudes, the quality is like impeccable. And then the editing skills that Gnostic Informant did are amazing. Go subscribe. Tons of Muslim content right now that I've been dealing with Islam. And this is like, why did they have him burn the variants? You know, right here, contradictions in Islamic tradition. They don't even have a tradition that agrees with how the Quran came to be. But it's supposedly a miracle, and it's supposedly perfect, and there's no errors. But I'm talking to an expert PhD who reads Arabic, so they can't say, well, you don't know how to read it in its original language. Well, I got a guy who can, and he has his own thoughts on this. What Muslim apologists won't tell you, look at those eyes, bro. Yeah, it's sexy. Anyway,
that's why she should have the full veil with the mesh. So
serious.
Clearly that's too much.
Yeah, wait, that's too revealing. That's too much.
That is. I think so. I'm looking at her.
Not acceptable.
The problem of evil. There's so much. Richard Carrier talks about the Assumption of Mary. Dennis talking about if Jesus exists, because he thinks he does. Did Odysseus exist? And of course he thinks he doesn't, but he goes into the explanations. Wake up, scholars. Bro, I'm having fun here, guys. You know
what's funny about that point is that if you go back into time to when paganism was like the main thing in Greece and Rome, they thought Odysseus was a real person. Like people's belief in him made him a real person. As soon as people stopped believing in Greek mythology and started becoming Christians, and Constantine made Christianity the state religion, Odysseus all of a sudden was a myth. And that, you know what I'm saying? It's the people made him real. Just like same with, with most of the New and Old Testament. I don't think Judas Iscariot is a real person. You know what I'm saying?
The Jew that betrayed Jesus.
Right. Exactly the same way as Joseph did. It happened twice in history. Like, no way.
What's up, Camille?
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Camille.
All right.
The wrong Camille.
Yeah. The feminine Camille.
Yeah.
Hey, that's okay. Yeah, we're going to be interviewing you at some point in the future here on this show, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know that already.
Yes, very true. Very true. Because it's a lot to unpack, to be quite honest. I was in the church since I was in the womb. So that's a lot to unpack, and it's going to be very interesting.
Well,
it's going to be very interesting.
I think you're going to have an awesome story from what we were talking about in Messenger the other day. There's so much to do and talk about and help other people see it. I do want to shout out to Chris Barboza. He says, Derek single-handedly saved my marriage. Thank you, MythVision. Don't know how I did that, but I'm glad I was able to help my friend.
Wow.
Hey, that's
You're
awesome.
godly.
And
Derek, the Lambert of God.
Right.
takes away the sin of people's marriages. Jonathan Clark, I will have my friend Tim Mills on. He's as busy as I am, but he does a different kind of job. So I plan to have him on. And then super chat from Melody Joyce says, congrats on 30K. You make learning fun.
Hi, Melody.
Thank you, Melody. I appreciate it. I do. I really appreciate that. Nah, but it's not just me. Like all of these guys, all of these girls, like it's fun to learn. I didn't really care in high school to learn. I'm not going to lie.
Same.
Yeah. But once I got out, I was like, hold on. You mean to tell me there's mysteries and interesting stuff out there in the world that I've never known? Oh, cool. Let me look into it.
Right.
I think it's all because, especially when you've been involved in something most of your life or kind of gravitated to it because you had an issue in your life, when your eyes are open, you're like, what's this? Or what's this? Is this real? Oh my God. And you get these huge, this huge surge of wanting the information, wanting to dig deeper, and stuff. And this is one of the reasons why I like you, Derek, and the whole MythVision idea, because you're opening your eyes to so much out there and getting the information and talking to scholars. And it was actually because of you that I actually started watching Dr. Richard Carrier and, Dr. Price. And I said I adore that man very much so. And Gnostic Informant, who I was watching the other day, and I saw live with Camille on it the other day. So it's because of you that I get to see all of these other people and hear their thoughts and opinions on, whether they're agnostic, atheists, or still believers or something like that. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, these are people that I am interested in. Like, I find the guys you see on the screen, people I've had on different discussions that I find interesting. And one of my goals, I'm just one guy. I want to be on same par as everyone else in terms of just being excited about this stuff. But I want that trend to take place where other people are starting to cause that ripple effect and create their own momentum. Because what I do, some people might come on and go, I don't really like Derek's style, or I'm not interested in what he's into, but I like some of the things Derek likes, but that Derek doesn't specialize on. And that would be like Nathan. Nathan is big into philosophy. In fact, I call him when I have questions. I'm like, bro, I'm having Bernardo Kastrup on. Like, this guy has an unbelievably deep mind, but like, what are some problems you think, about his ideas? And Nathan's like, well, okay. And it's a whole different language. And he's explaining it to me. And I'm like, holy moly, I don't know if I can even begin to open this Pandora's box of a philosophy.
But it's the fact that you're open to it, which, if you ever watch yourself back live, people gravitate to that openness. They see that. They're like, oh, wait, this guy's into this? Oh, maybe I should check this out too. So It's kind of like a good domino effect with everyone,
I think it's good that you bring on the experts, and it's not your own opinion and what you think or what you think is the truth. You actually get different people on, and not even just experts that you like. You get experts on from all different viewpoints and give them a platform to speak. And like I said earlier, it literally becomes an arena for ideas, which is what makes it so great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I need to say this. Sorry about the chirping. I do need to change my smoke detector, but my stepladder is too short.
Oh, I couldn't hear it. Did you hear it, guys?
I couldn't hear it. No, you're good. You're good.
It beeps occasionally, and I was reading the live chat, because when I'm on YouTube, I comment in the live chat, nothing, not a zilch. It won't let me super chat or anything, but I can see all the chat. So someone was saying that this I look like Shaka Khan. Thanks. And my smoke detector. So I'm like, okay, sorry.
Yeah, I guess some people can hear it.
You're like a phoenix rising.
Yeah.
Up.
Yeah, the roof is on fire.
Well, I am.
You're living up to your name right now as a phoenix. That's why that smoke detector's there, because you're a phoenix. Why wouldn't there be a smoke detector for a phoenix?
Is it a coincidence that smoke is the one who could hear it? Huh?
Right. Huh? But he's been smoking. I'm thinking Mortal Kombat. So
look, everybody go subscribe to Nathan. I just put it in the chat. He's at Digital Gnosis, and we have Gnostic Informant here, Gnosis as well. So we've got multiple people on. Real quick, Jojo asked about one of my co-hosts, where is Luther? Well, Luther went to go write a book, and Luther decided he would permanently, I guess, write this book. I don't know. I mean, I'm here if he ever wants to do shows. My buddy Luther G. Williams, who's definitely one of the early guys who was helping me out with the show. But I mean, like, I put all of my eggs in this, and he was just like, it was too much for him to do it like that. So I want to get him on from time to time. I just know this isn't a way for him to be able to do this full time. He couldn't do it. It just wouldn't work for him. So I love him, man. But, he had to do what he had to do that takes care of his bills too. So you can't blame someone for that. But one day he'll get his book published. And when he does, I hope to get him on and interview him on that book. I look forward to see what he says,
Do you have any idea what the book's about?
Yeah, it comes into, it's pretty much arguing that there's militant factions and Hellenistic factions in the first century, how maybe Rome might have been involved in the development of early Christianity as a political situation to try and prevent what we saw constantly happening with the Bar Kokhba revolt in 70 AD and stuff like that. But he gets into that and he argues, I think Christianity could have developed, he says, without a historical Jesus, right? So he's saying whether there was one or wasn't doesn't matter. He makes this argument on early Christianity. Other than that, I'm strawmanning or not understanding because he would need to have his book published. So,
Well, I mean, there's always Amazon, self-published.
Oh, I heard it then. I heard the smoke detector.
did you?
Yeah. Sorry.
If you can hear
My
that
step-
smoke
My
detector, you
stepladder
have
is
the
too
ears to-
short. Yes. You know, it's like the saying, my arms are too short to box with God. Well, my stepladder is too short to reach the high ceiling.
Can I ask you, where did you come up with that name, Phoenix?
Well, as a kid, I read a lot of Greek myths. I also read a lot of Chinese myths. And the one specific bird that was in a lot of the myths I read growing up was the phoenix. Now, in the Greek myth, it's mostly a she. She rises from the ashes. She reforms herself. She rebirths every time, there's something that happens. Whereas in the Chinese one, it's a sign of prosperity. So once I finally kind of just left Christianity and the whole mental manipulation, which we'll get into later once me and Derek have our conversation, which is later in the year, I decided to call myself the Phoenix Queen because that was a sign of rebirth for me.
That's
from growing up in Christianity and, having relatives who were in ministry and being in ministry myself. It was like, this is a rebirth.
Mm.
So that's how the name came.
That's pretty beast mode.
Ooh, Dr. Kip. I like him. Sorry.
Oh, who doesn't like Dr. Kip?
S.J. Thomason.
Plenty of people, actually.
Otangelo.
Well, I think
Jesus.
Otangelo likes me just fine. And
Who?
Let's see. I'm pretty sure Otangelo likes me. You don't think he likes me?
I'm being funny. I don't know.
He
what
likes
people-
everyone.
And
Otangelo likes everyone. He just won't
let's
stop.
be clear here. Unlike Otangelo, I'm pretty sure Jesus would hate all of us if we're here today. I mean, seriously, we can't speak Aramaic, so what the hell would we even talk about? And we're all a bunch of Westerners, indulgent Westerners, absorbed in our own lives, right?
Woe to us.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Jesus
Well, I
would
mean,
hate us.
we could be like, the group in Acts, and when the Shekinah glory, the Comforter comes over people and they start speaking in tongues, then maybe we can learn how to speak Aramaic. It might come to us. I don't know.
You
point
let
right
me
there.
know when that happens. Right?
Yeah, I think we would.
All right.
Get a little bitty hand swoosh.
Right.
So
Do you have
What's
a
up?
YouTube, Camille?
No.
We need.
Oh
to
no,
get
I gave up that I gave up that years ago.
So when we go to do this, how do you want to plug yourself? Do you just want to give your information out when we do the recording?
Well, I do have an Instagram. I try to post a lot of positive things that are non-religious related. That's pretty much it. My YouTube channel is so old, I don't even remember the password for it. For anything. It was like when you're editing the stuff yourself and you're trying to do content, and it was just at the time I was doing online radio, and I used to do interviews at Comic-Cons when we used to have them. I would interview celebrities and I would do all of that stuff, and it just became too much, and I just let it die.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
It was fun.
Nathan, what's on your mind, my brother?
On my mind.
Yes.
Right
he's
now.
Thinking.
Right
No,
now, what is on
right
your
now.
mind right now?
I'm
bro?
I'm thinking about how I've not got enough sleep the past few days, and it's giving me this weird like sleep headache. You know, like when I don't know if you get it, but like my brain feels like it's burning or something. I'm kind of like, but
Better get some sleep.
Yeah, you might want to take some melatonin, something, you know.
Yeah, I think just getting to bed before midnight tonight would be a marked improvement for me.
Yeah, you should try that.
Yeah,
You got a few hours, I think, don't you?
Yeah. It's only 10 past 7 now.
I did a video with Dr. Kip about a week ago, and this one part of the video was so good, and it was so well done on Kip's part, on describing his rebuttal to his old mentor, Peter Flint, that I had to make it a highlight. So anyone wants to know about the certain Dead Sea Scroll, what is it called, Dr. Kip?
The Nachal Hever Psalm Scroll.
See, I would never be able to say that, but if you want to know about that,
whoa, it's
having problems. I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. I got control. Fools that want to make sure my casket's closed. Rap critics.
Would you like to come do my business too?
It's got great.
Hey, Hogan, what do you think about? Oh, he left. I was going to ask him about evolution, but he left.
Yeah, he'll probably come back, guys. Just keep.
I thought
evolution.
that might be a mummy mask in the sink.
That was good.
That was what he was cleaning the
awesome.
thing with. Yeah.
Oh man,
that was awesome.
I love Dr. Josh. I'm serious. Like, all right, everyone on the internet world knows he's sincere, right? We all know this. Like, you could tell the guy's real authentic. When you meet him in person, he's even more so. It's ridiculous. I'm like,
oh, nice.
He could punch me and I'd feel like a pillow just hit me, probably. That's how nice this guy is.
Or you would feel like you really must have deserved it.
I deserved it.
You're like, what? Oh, I'm so sorry. What did I do? Whatever it is.
Episode of Doctor Who.
Oh man,
is it?
Yeah, if the doctor gets really, really mad, and you know he's really upset when he gets really, really mad, and then calm, and it's just real quiet. You don't even realize it, and then you're like, "Uh-oh, I done pissed him off." Speaking of which, Derek, you have to watch Doctor Who, though. Seriously, like
I do.
Up until 13. Don't watch 13.
I think you're just saying that because they're both doctors.
The absolute picture of patience and long suffering is Josh just sent me links to his conversations, his 2 conversations that he had with Darth Dawkins, and I watched those yesterday, and I don't know how the guy does it. It just I would have lost my mind.
He talked to Your Way or Yahweh yesterday as well.
Who?
The 7-day week guy. The
Josh
7-day
talked to him?
Yeah, yesterday.
Serious?
And the guy was trying to tell Josh. Josh was like, "Yeah, it doesn't." Josh had sent him some articles or something in an email, and the guy hadn't. The guy came on and was like, "Yeah, the guy's wrong." And then Josh was like, "Oh, what does he say?" And he was like, "Well, I didn't really read it, but he's wrong."
No, I mean that's kind of important.
Wow.
Yeah, it was about to that. It was on Skylar's channel where I think Josh had sent him an article about the earliest 7-day week or something, like some scholar arguing for it that wasn't even Josh, and Josh was like, it's his argument, his area of expertise, and the guy was just like, yeah, well, you're wrong, Josh, and you're saying all this and you're telling lies, and he was just like, okay.
You know what I noticed too is a lot of people, they'll just read the title of something and then that's all the rebuttal, just the title. They don't even read the actual what's in there. You know what I'm saying? Or those shit, or people like on social media will share articles from like 10 years ago as if it just happened today. Like breaking news, And then you click on it, you're like, hey, buddy, just so you know, the article you just shared is from like 7 years ago.
All you gotta do is read it, and you'll find that out. Like
Yeah.
this didn't happen.
How you
It
know
has a date on it.
Interesting. Yeah, that guy, the 7-day guy, came on. He popped on when I literally said, like, if you are a Muslim, please join me. And the guy still showed up. And he was the first guy who did. And I'm like, bro, I didn't know who this guy was, but yeah, I'm not like, I don't know, man. I want to take serious stuff. It's just hard to take serious when that's the kind of stuff you bump into. And then it's like, if someone does address it and shows something predated, let's say Judaism's idea of 7-day week, what do you do with that? Are you still going to keep running around saying you're God? Everyone is now responsible, if you will, under this God, because this God like set the 7-day week. We're all trapped under this. I couldn't really understand what he was trying to actually say because I never watched the full thing. What was he trying to say?
He's saying that Yahweh says in the Old Testament that he's going to cause there to be a 7-day week globally. And the verses that he takes as a proof text for this are like, they'll worship me from Sabbath to the Sabbath. So I think it's basically an idiom, like 24/7. But anyway, I don't think it's describing, I think it's describing like some weird sort of like after a religious apocalypse type thing. But I don't know a lot about it. And then he's saying, so in other cultures, the reason that they had different length weeks was tied to their different religious sort of practices and beliefs that they had. But then because everyone globally has adopted the 7-day week, that's extra evidence of it being like a fulfillment of the prophecy, is that it's also superseding like previous religious practices and stuff. I mean, personally, I just think
doesn't 7-day week go back to Babylon before there was Israel even was a thing?
Yeah, I think it's the word. Like, there's so many problems with this argument. As like, all you've got to do is, I mean, even if you ask him, well, why did Japan, for example, adopt the 7-day week? I mean, the story that's going to be told there isn't like Yahweh appeared and just gave it to them. It's going to be this natural story about they opened up the ports, Westerners arrived. This is in like the 1800s, and then they started trading with Westerners and stuff like that. And so they had to have some idea of what their schedule was like. And
I'm pretty sure, and Dr. Josh can probably correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure the 7-day week has pagan roots, like in Sumerian paganism or something. I'm pretty sure. I don't know where Dr. Josh can probably correct me on this.
What?
Oh, no.
Or not.
He's like, I'm out of here. Bye.
I think, yeah. I don't know what happened.
I don't even think he was on. I think he had a problem with his mic, so he's probably fixing it. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was, which is pretty wild for them to think that because it's in their Old Testament, because they believe that the Genesis 1 is the beginning of the entire world, that Genesis 1 was told in oral tradition all the way to the time of Moses, then that means that 7-day weeks have to come from them. It's just a wild. You're jumping over 20 cliffs to get to that conclusion.
Mm.
Well, people will string together irrelevant things to try to prove their point. So,
No, it's very true.
Very, very
I
true.
mean, we see that now. We've seen it over the past 4 years with a certain 45. We see it in our media. We see it in every aspect. So it's not unthinkable to me to think that they didn't do that in antiquity.
Yeah.
There's a famous proverb, nothing is new under the sun. So we just see more of it.
And a lot of those proverbs are borrowed from the Egyptian proverbs too. A lot of some of the even I think it's the Catholic Bible still has the name of one of the like pharaohs or something in the book of Proverbs. I can't remember which version it is. Yeah, Dr. Kid probably knows that. What'd you say?
Amenemope?
Yes, yeah.
I don't know if it's
oh, that's exactly what I was referring to. I just couldn't think of the name.
Probably there. I mean, that was, when you look at, I'm pretty sure it's there's like a whole section. It's like 8 or 10 chapters of Proverbs, because they're grouped, right? This is a grouped collection. It's a collection of collections that have been put together over a long period of time. So there's the Proverbs of Solomon's Men, and there's the Proverbs of Amenemope, and I'm not sure. Yeah, you might be right. I don't know about the name still surviving on in the Catholic Bible. There's the proverb that the proverb of King Lemuel's mother, whoever the hell this guy is, right? It's so, yeah, it's all recycled stuff.
Yeah, it's actually really fascinating because you can kind of pick apart fragments that are like that survived into this unified text that clearly had different sources, like the Yahweh source, the priestly source, Deuteronomy source, and then once you actually can see it, you can never unsee it. You now know you understand why it intertwines like that.
There's some really interesting work going on right now with regards to the relationship between what we call sapiential wisdom teaching, which is what appears in the Proverbs, and the whole worldview that surrounds that, and the apocalyptic worldview and apocalyptic literature, and on the other end, connections between this sapiential wisdom kind of stuff with the Muslim legal tradition. It's spelled. Lots that actually comes out of the Dead Sea Scrolls, because you've got all sorts of like really intriguing texts, like something called 4Q Instruction, which was a massive document, and survived in, I think, 6 or 7 copies in the Qumran caves, something that nobody had ever seen or knew of before 1947, and yet it is a 2nd century collection of wisdom literature, similar to Proverbs, similar to what you see in Ben Sira, but also with these really neat connections to apocalyptic literature. Anyways, that's a tangent.
Oh, man.
No, that was cool.
Yeah. I love hearing stuff like that, man.
Someone asked,
It's fascinating. I just love history in general. Just like learning about the past. Learning about the past is so fast. It's just an endless universe of information that you'll never can figure out or have all the full truth to. You always have to theorize and speculate on things. And there's only certain things that you can know for sure. And I mean, textual criticism is like the biggest tool is finding out what was, what I'm saying? Like Dr. Kip knows all about that. That's tough work right there.
Well, textual criticism and literary criticism and source criticism and rhetorical criticism, like these are all separate disciplines, and they're all really useful for various things, for different things. So, but yeah, this is something that I never got, and it still causes me to roll my eyes when people come back and say, well, if you no longer believe this stuff anymore, with regards to the stories of Jesus or the existence of a theistic God like in the Old Testament, then why do you spend so much time thinking about it or talking to people about it if it doesn't matter? And I think, just like what you said, Neil, I'm, for me, and I think for a lot of us, maybe for most of us, I mean, this is all really interesting, fascinating stuff from an historical perspective or an anthropological perspective or a sociological perspective. It's just really cool, all of it. I'm constantly fascinated by, the relationships between texts, like not even ancient texts, but modern texts and ideas and all sorts of stuff like this. It's all good.
Real quick, I gotta do a quick jab in here. Dust, great book, Audio Fear, Ishai Rosenzweig. It is very complex, but it's worth reading if you want to understand Israel's others throughout the biblical narrative. And it's not one thing. This is why it's complex. Like certain authors have different others, the way they view the nations around them. They're not quite all on the same page, which is what I found interesting. But I really investigated that because I started taking a deep dive into the Israel only stuff. And then also someone asked about the upcoming discussion, so to speak, between Jonathan Sheffield and Richard Carrier. And they're going to be discussing on Daniel and did, Alexander the Great and Cyrus the Great, did they come across Daniel in history? And of course, I think Richard would say no, but that's going to be something that's coming up October the 2nd. So it'll be live here on MythVision. Just giving you guys that update. All right.
I actually asked Dr. Jim Majors about that too, and he gave a big no to that too. He thinks it's ridiculous. He thinks that was in a later Flavian, like Josephus writing that narrative was where we got that information from.
Right.
Because if think about it, think of how crazy this, how insane this would be. The Jews go and approach Alexander the Great and show him the book of Daniel. Oh, you're going to die very soon, and your kingdom is going to be divided up into 4. Oh, yeah, great. Let's go do that. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy after that because he knows what's going to happen. Just that alone destroys the whole narrative that they told that the book of Daniel was written the way it was before Alexander the Great even met them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it sounds like an apologetic work, that he's working with an apologetic work. But it'll be interesting to hear what he says for sure. I'm interested. Dust says the semantics and philosophy stuff is complex, but thanks overall for introducing me to them. You're welcome. Appreciate it. Yeah, I definitely was going to open up the room. I want to see if you guys are okay with that. We invite a few people in. We have to kind of rotate them though, as we go. So what do you guys say?
Yeah, dude, let's do it.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense to do it rotating though, I think, because from my experience, when you get too many like dissenting voices in at the same time, it can be very difficult to have like one coherent flow. Yeah.
So I'll bring one on at a time.
Yep. There you go.
If they're contentious, if they have like issues they want to bring up or whatever, that way it's not like chaos.
And let me just for people who are going to jump in and even us right now, if we're not speaking, we should probably mute our mics because then we won't get a bunch of chatter in the back. Like I'm going to do that for myself too. Anyone that yeah.
Oh, and by the way, it might get hot in here and a smoke detector might go off because it's just that contentious. Just so you know.
Yeah, it's not mine.
It's not her. It's you. It's you. Blame yourself. Blame yourself. All right, here's the chat here. I'm letting you guys come in and say, hey, if you have something positive to say, we always encourage that. We've been pretty successful here in growing and getting people acquainted with the material. So I always love some love. But yeah, here's the link. Anywho, carry on, my friends.
Carry on my wayward son.
I do want to hook Nathan up with Khalil because he's big into the whole philosophy stuff. And he says, I'm going to throw this out there. He said that the reason he became Muslim is he started to engage with those guys from the Lion Den and they're very philosophical. And it's somehow convinced him philosophically that the monotheism and from what he understands Islam to be, that it's true, it's logical, and that somehow convinced him. Now, I don't know if you saw that conversation I had with him or not.
I've not seen the conversation. I've not really listened to a full description of him explaining what it is that sort of tipped him over exactly. I'm a little bit skeptical on the face of it just because I've engaged with those guys before and they don't seem to be as philosophically informed as, I mean, other people. Like the Islamic tradition is really, really rich and there's a bunch of interesting ideas in there. But right. I don't think that they're necessarily the guys that are expounding that. They sort of seem to be more on the left, like I don't know. William Lane Craig's like pretty smart, but like a Frank Chorek type thing, or like it seems more to be like that, and there's a bit more rhetoric maybe involved. But
interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, it'd be. I don't want to. Just because I'm skeptical and think there might be something else going on because I don't think that they've got very good justification for showing, that Allah exists and all that. I mean, maybe he did come to believe just as a result of that. I don't know. I'd have to hear what he's got to say and what exactly it was that was missing that came in and
Yeah, I'd
got
be
in there.
interested in having that. Actually, if you'd be well, either you can invite him on, or I could. I'd love to have you.
Yeah, I'm
and
happy
him
to do
chat.
either. I don't. Yeah. I'm happy
Real
to
quick,
do.
Kip, what's the purpose of the erotic Song of Solomon? Real quick, before we bring some of the people in the chat on.
What's the purpose of the erotic Song of Solomon? Well, it's not the Song of Solomon. First off, it's the Song of Songs. The Solomon attribution is later. The purpose of it's love poetry. I mean, it's well
PG-13,
beloved,
right?
Yeah. So, yeah,
Okay.
this is the kind of stuff that we used to, sit around in groups of 4 as a teenager in Boys Brigade and snicker as we read through all the dirty descriptions, right? So,
Well, that's the one about how Jesus loves the church, right, Kip? That's what it's about.
No, see, yeah, actually, there is some, there's some, I think, pretty brilliant expositions on what to do with the Song of Songs in a religious context, because it's not a religious work, right? So, and this is one of them. One of my I'm just looking for it now. One of my mentors, is this it? Oh, there it is. Just recently wrote this book.
The literary growth.
There we go. The literary growth Song of Songs during the Hasmonean and early Herodian periods. So I don't think I agree with him, because he's made a lot of mistakes in it. But he makes an interesting case for the Song of Songs being only as old as about the 2nd century.
Okay,
BCE.
guys, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 people in the waiting area. Let's see, Danny. I've talked to Danny before. Is this the same Danny?
I think so.
Oh yeah, what's up, man?
Hey, no, I actually spoke with Khalil. I think he's persuaded by the Kalam cosmological argument.
Okay. So Danny, I know that you're chill. We've talked many times before, and really cool. I'm going to bring some people on that are in the chat down below, and we're going to invite them on real quick. First, Jesse, you were in line, man. What's
Howdy.
up?
Howdy, I'm a ex-Calvinist, Southern Baptist Convention.
Oh wow, man. Well, I'm glad to see you joining, man. I'm sure you probably watch me a lot, huh?
Oh, I watch you all the time, man. Man, you've helped me a lot, watching this kind of content, and I can relate to a lot of stuff, because I used to believe like a lot of the same stuff you used to believe,
Yeah, well, I couldn't swallow the pill like completely. It kept throwing it back up that God's sending people that he planned to burn forever. I couldn't quite get that whole thing.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that fall for me when I really started thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're believing it because you're reading stuff in the text that seems to be saying this. I mean, like God is literally preparing people for destruction and stuff. It's like, hold on, what?
He's omnipotent, so he knows everything that's going to happen. He planned this all out. It's all a divine plan. But then he put a tree in the middle of the garden, knowing what's going to happen. We're all going to be damned because of it.
But
and don't forget the free will.
Yeah. It's always like that little thing they're trying to fix it. Well, because he gave him free will, he put him in this garden. I mean, even if you read the New Testament, it gets real funny because he's the lamb who was slain before the foundation of the world. It's kind of like, hold on, you planned this crap, buddy. Like, what are you doing?
In the beginning was the Logos. If the Logos was there in the beginning, why isn't the Logos in the Old Testament? How do these Jews, all these Levite priests that are going into the temple and sacrificing daily, never heard anything about this?
That's the daily double right there.
Hey, I got another person I need to bring in, and it's the perfect Dawa. What is up? Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Danny. Drake.
Hey.
Drake, how are you?
Good. How are you, man? Welcome to the chat.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say that I sent you several messages regarding a debate I wanted to do with AP.
Hold on. Let me put my headphones on because I'm having a hard time. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. I think I can hear you now.
Yeah, good. I sent you several messages regarding a debate with AP. And I don't know if you have received those messages. I was wondering if you can set up a.
Did you message me on Facebook?
Facebook, yes, and then the email. I think I received something back from you. But,
okay. I know someone yesterday was asking, to want to debate him. And one of the things that I sent someone yesterday wrote me, and I sent it to him, and he said he doesn't even line up with whoever this person was. It may not have been you. That they don't even agree with most of Islam on this topic. So they may be promoting a peaceful position, but like they're kind of like neglecting hadith. They're doing all this stuff to kind of make a pretty version of Islam. And I think that that's something he said. He was like,
oh, he just, okay, I understand that he just want to debate extremist Muslims, yeah?
What?
Extremist Muslims, ISIS followers.
Oh, no. I don't think he's trying to just debate ISIS followers. I think he's looking for people who actually are willing to accept, like Sunni Islam, right? Like people who actually follow the hadith and believe.
Yes, I follow hadith, yes.
Right. But he's saying that the way a lot of the people that I've had come on, for example, that have reached out, they're like Quran onlyist, or they're taking like an interpretation that's extremely soft to kind of make it look like this is the way it really meant when it was written, And he just told me that was his personal opinion. He's like, I'm not interested in, having a discussion with someone who's going to make everything mean something that 99% of Islam does not interpret it to mean. It's kind of like debating a Christian who says Jesus didn't actually rise from the dead. It's a metaphor to mean that like you and your own personal experience will rise from your trouble downfalls in this world. And you're like, whoa, what the heck does that even mean? And why should I believe it then? And like, what would be the point? Now, if someone's saying a guy actually physically died, physically rose from the dead, and you're making a truth claim that can be kind of proven, then it's something like that. And if 99% of Christians believe that, then that would be something that he's kind of saying he would rather take interest in that, since that 0 or 0.0001% of people who are believing Islam in this strange, more progressive way of interpretation, he's kind of saying it is a waste of time in his opinion, I guess. That's what he told me. So
because he said that Muslims are afraid of debating him. But if I going to talk something out of Islam, Quran and Hadith, then yes, he has a point. But if I prove him, if I give him the facts from Quran and Hadith, then I don't know what is his problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I sent him. Was it you that messaged me yesterday?
Yes, it was me.
Okay, I sent him your message, took a screenshot and everything. So he responded back to me. He was very kind about it. Don't get me wrong. He's just like, let me read you what he said real fast here. And then after that, I've got some people in the chat, my friend. But you're always welcome back, by the way. As long as I open the doors, I got to be careful because things might get real heated at some point, and then it's not as easy to open these doors after a while. Who knows? All right, so he said, after I screenshot him the message, he said, no, I don't know who he is. I just heard of him and see that he is a fringe opinionist whom not even Muslims accept. I don't see what the point would be. And I said, all right, I got you, bro. That was it. So
yeah, just because, he thinks that Muslims don't accept, but he didn't, take any vote from entire Muslim world to see that they accept what I say. Yes, few extremist Muslims, they don't accept what I say. But I'm not alone. We are millions. So why he doesn't want to accept our opinion. He just want to hear, this is main, even media, they just rise up the voice of the extremists, ISIS, Taliban, all this.
Right. I think he is trying to combat those more harmful ideas. But look, I'm not closed off on maybe having a conversation where I could set something up where you and another Muslim can debate on these topics on the channel. Because
I appreciate it very much. Yeah, because it is a great help for humanity. For example, maybe this Daniel Hargaju, that he's now spreading his messages on his channel, AP, and say this is true Islam. That's such a people. If you could invite them, I would appreciate it very much. That I can debate them to prove them that's wrong. This is not Islam. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate you joining in, man, and coming and saying hey. And like I said, we'll try and set something up with you and another Muslim since he's not interested. Maybe he'll change his mind and be interested. But I'll try and set something up with you and a Muslim that disagrees with you, and then have two Muslims explain why they don't agree on something on the channel. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think that we Muslims who interpret Islam in a peaceful way, we need help to raise our voice, and you can help us. This is a common problem. Don't you think so? For example,
let me just say this. I've said this before. There's some people who may disagree, right? They think that Islam is just inherently bad. And don't get me wrong. Who knows? Maybe if they're right. But here's the thing. I would much rather see someone progressively go in the direction of peace. I don't care what you believe. The Cookie Monster, Santa Claus, I don't care. If you're heading in a humanitarian way, I support that agenda better than someone who's going and trying to really be what you can like ISIS, the Taliban extreme. I believe in progressive ideas, humanism, women's rights, and things like this. I'm all for that. So if you have a peaceful position, it'll be cool, but I don't know how, that will stand up against someone who might use the same text. It'll be interesting to see what you do. Thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Great. That would be interesting. Yes.
Email me too. You can keep messaging me as well on Facebook, and let's see if there's someone see if you can do the work. Find another Muslim that totally disagrees with you, and let's see if we can set something up.
Okay, if you can also try. I appreciate it very much. Okay.
Yeah, I will. I'm now starting to engage, so yes. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I would like to say to AP as well that if you help people like me, then maybe all Muslims change their mind to kill me. That would be great for you as well.
Well, thank you.
Those extremist Muslims who believe that you have to be killed because you're opposite. Yeah, thank you very much, my dear brother.
Thank you. The perfect dawah. Have a good one, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm all for that. I don't think anyone on this panel would disagree with trying to go in the right direction in terms of, I mean, imagine, would you rather have Christianity burning people at the stake for not believing in the Trinity, or Christianity that's like opening the doors to the LGBTQ community, even though they're probably neglecting the biblical text? And I'm not saying that that's what he's doing because I don't know the Quran, but I'm saying I would much rather someone try heading that direction. Work with what you got. If you can't convince people to leave the worldview, what would you do? I mean, you got to try and pacify, I would say. That would be the best direction. Before I bring on someone else, did you guys want to make a comment?
Yeah, I'll say something about that. So I don't seek to like end religion and like debunk all religions. Like at the end of the day, I realize that religion and spirituality is very central for some people. It fills a void. People are scared of death. People want hope for life after death. I understand that completely. But I just think that I would like to see people be more realistic and apply, maybe accept science and fill in the gaps of what we don't know with their beliefs. I mean, I can't tell people what to do, but like that's what I would like to see. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, me too.
I know. I would like to see people not to be so. I know in American culture, Christianity it's everything. It's your social circle. It's your family. And when you leave that, you lose that community. I would like to see people not lose that sense of community, because a lot of people do join churches. They do go into Christianity with that sense of belonging because, they want hope. They want to belong. They want somewhere where they can fit in. Mm-hmm. And taking away that belief, I was having this discussion with my mother the other day. So she's left Christianity per se, but she still, believes in God. So we were having the discussion regarding leaving something that grown up in, that's all to realizing that there might not be something else. And then that actually does do more harm for some than good. So rather than just say, oh, no religion, nowhere, no, just explain that, yes, your belief may be centered around a lie. It may be centered around a story, but still look beyond that. Don't just be all in your feelings about, oh well, this is my faith and this is how I believe in it. Because remember, centuries ago, they were killing people for not believing in their God in Christianity. You know, we had a lot of that. So to now, where there are certain churches that do marry people in the LGBTQ community. You know, they're not doing a lot of conversion therapy as they used to do in like the 70s and 80s, and I think up into the 90s in some churches. They're opening their doors to more of a broader audience. That's only some, not all. But I would like it more to be a choice than saying, "Oh, you gotta believe in this. This is the only way. There's only one way to God, and that's through Jesus," and all of that nonsense.
Well,
so
I have to. Obviously, I agree with you.
Yeah, hey, can I say something? You know, I would like to see people like thinking more rationally. That's one of the main things I like to combat religion for, is because it just warps people's thinking and they can't seem to make good decisions. I'm a nurse, and the anti-vax people are always religious, you know, and it's like they just don't have the they're not able to rationally think about it, you know. But when
you think
they're
it's
in
because of the religion? You think it's because of the religion?
It is.
I don't know if it's because you know.
There's a strong correlation, is what you're
necessarily.
saying, right? There's just a strong correlation.
Yeah, you know.
I think it's associated, Danny. Like, me and Camille did a video looking at some of the things that there's obviously. It's worthwhile saying that there's a lot of religious people who also obviously advocate, you know, what our best science has to say about taking the vaccine stuff. But for evangelicals and people like who listen to people like James White in those kind of circles, they're sort of pushing a narrative that. And I think it's part of the theological belief of spiritual warfare. So the idea that we live in a cancel culture and, you know, the stuff with Trump getting voted out and stuff, it's all part of the current age of spiritual warfare. And the vaccine is just the next thing in that kind of political series. And then the reason the vaccine is being put forward is for take your pick of a few, you know, like Bill Gates trying to put microchips in you or trying to control you with masks and taking away my freedoms. And it's sort of this epistemological mess of beliefs that I think are connected to this more foundational belief about being in a kind of spiritual war that sort of gives credence to these conspiracy beliefs that otherwise, you know, someone else wouldn't sort of have a reason to motivate them.
Yeah, a lot of it comes from the anti-science, like, because a lot of the I grew up anti-evolution, you know, and it just leads to a distrust of science in general.
Yeah, I guess I was just imagining like an inverted world where, like, take all the political issues and then the religious groups and invert them in a way where, like, all the values that, I guess, let's just say, for lack of a better term, the left has are actually held by religious people. It seems like that's perfectly feasible to in a way where we wouldn't be licensed to think there's some kind of causal tendency of fundamentalism and let's say pro-life or anti-vax.
Well, if you notice that with a lot of, I'm sorry to interrupt, with a lot of the major causes now, like we just had like the Texas ban of abortion and other things, a lot of the evangelicals jump onto that. They're like, oh, well, we're pro-life, but you don't care about the life outside of the womb. We have millions of children in, you know, in foster care that need homes, but you're not looking at them. But you're worried about what a woman does with her body. To me, that's contradictory. And if you're really going to go by Jesus's message, you're not listening to the message when he said, love one another, love yourselves as Christ loves the church. You're not listening to that message. So if you're going to be pro-life, that means
my view is that that's
the womb, but also my fellow man.
My view is that that's a bit of a straw man. That's a bit of a straw man of the pro-life position, though. They're not. I mean, if you can take the unsophisticated version of any view, that's fair. But I think in essence, right, all pro-life is about is that there are cases in which we would force the birth as to not kill whatever was in the womb, right? That doesn't commit you to a healthcare position or adoption position or anything like that. Although those things correlate once again with that view of, you know, kind of forcing birth. But
what I'm saying is that they correlate it with life.
Yeah, I think you're just concerned about the term pro-life. I think that's a semantic point. You could call it anything, you know. You call it pro-birth. Some people call it pro-birth. It's the same position, though, right? That they think that it should be legally illegal to kill fetuses or embryos or whatever.
What a lot of Christians, and you have to remember, I'm still friends with a lot of Christians, especially those that attend the former church I go. They think of it as murder. They don't care that it's, you know, a fetus, it's cells. And, you know, I have a medical background too. I'm still a licensed medic. So looking at that, it's not as RN though, but still, you still have anatomy and physiology and all this stuff. And it's like, yes, I understand your position, but if you want to say it's still a life, there's still lives out here that matter too.
But I think you're just misunderstanding the position, right? If I say that X person shouldn't die, right? I'm not committed to thinking that they should have a certain quality of life if they are alive, right? That doesn't commit me. I'm just saying they shouldn't die, right? I think that's the strongest version of the view.
I always wondered that if a fetus who'd never sinned is going straight to heaven, then why would they want to risk being damned by going into the world and then being corrupted by the evil world? That's more of a philosophical approach. It's not that I don't understand the pro-life worldview. I think if it's coming from a religious point of view, like, oh, these people need to be saved, aren't they already going to heaven anyway? So wouldn't it not matter?
Yeah, I like your point. In fact, I run an argument against certain Christians saying they actually have the obligation to abort their fetuses because you have an option here, right? Either that they allow them to live to where the probability of them going to hell jumps like crazy, or you can abort them in a way where you can guarantee their place in heaven, right? It seems like if Christians are merely interested in the afterlife, which a lot of them are, right? They evangelize for the sake of the afterlife. Then it seems like there's a moral conundrum there, right? That aborting fetuses are actually a good thing, given that it secures their spot in heaven.
Real quick.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of them think that far.
Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, I've got Jojo Freelancer and Jonathan Sheffield who jumped on. Jonathan, I just plugged our upcoming discussion with Richard Carrier just to give you a heads up, bro.
Oh, no, thanks for having me. I know I only got a few minutes. The baby let me sleep for a little while. I know we have some company, but thanks for having me on here for a few minutes.
Absolutely. I don't know. Can you guys see that? Oh, no, my screen's not sharing anymore. Look, go subscribe to his channel. He's got all the cartoons. He's the one who made my intro. Look at all these colorful cartoons.
He's got a good first century Mark jokes as well.
By the way, I saw that debate with Dr. Whitaker, and that was amazing. You guys both laid out your case very, very well. I was almost convinced both sides.
Oh, no, thank you for that. Once again, very impressed with Mark's scholarship. He's done a lot of really good stuff in the field, especially breaking away from some of the modern arguments with getting away from Q. But yeah, very good discussion. And hopefully with the upcoming discussion with Carrier, we should probably have another good, healthy discussion on the issue that's coming up. So kind of excited for that.
All right, guys, real quick, we got people calling us snowflakes. I think we need to find a safe space right now because
I think many things, but a snowflake isn't one of them.
Exactly. Hey, Caleb
that's
Jackson.
racist coming from you. That's what I'd say.
You're an idiot. Caleb Jackson has a super chat for the whole panel. Everybody give your own little thoughts here. Hey guys, what are your opinions on medically documented healings post prayer? Books by Brown, Duffin, Kassadorf, etc., including amputee healings. Canada, can science and religion work together? Thanks for the super chat, Caleb. And we will be talking at some point, my friend.
Yeah, all I can say about that is show me the studies, like show me the proof that any of that is true.
Yeah, I don't know those particular cases that were mentioned, but I mean, I think there's, in terms of like common causes, there's a ton of sort of really well documented stuff about memory contamination effects of like the kind of events that people are at where these sort of things happen, retelling of the stories over time, sort of the way. There's basically a ton of phenomena that contribute to people telling stories about things like this that don't really happen. I think that accounts for a good amount of them, with obviously people who are motivated to put on these sorts of shows for various reasons. But I mean, that might, maybe you can rule those out in those individual cases, and there's going to be good enough evidence there because I don't know them.
I do want to say I need more evidence, right? I can't just take people's like I don't take people's like testimonies as truth, because I've mythologized my own testimony. Joshua McDowell he mythologized his testimony. I mean, like, everybody does this. It's a human characteristic, and I don't even know if it's. I don't want to be derogatory towards people's intentions, right? But I feel
And we don't have to be either. I mean, I'm thinking about the we just recognized the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and as terrible a tragedy as it was, one of the things that 9/11 provided was a huge number of really amazing research and study into flashbulb memories and into the way that that people retain information and reconstruct their experiences, even those experiences that are like indelible, like the kinds of things that we think we could never possibly get, or we could never possibly get wrong. The science, especially since 9/11, has shown that that is just patently false. We're always mythologizing.
Yeah, it's just hard to know. Like Jesse said, get me the data, the actual data. It's always in a third world country. It's always in like some little backwood place in South America.
Third world countries like Canada.
I used to hear stories all the time about like magical stories from I can't even remember now. I think Haiti. Some of my missionaries from my church went. They used to tell stories like that all the time.
Oh, try being at a Benny Hinn convention.
Oh my goodness!
Hearing all the
Benny Hinn
stories. Yeah, my former pastor, he still does travel with Benny Hinn. When Benny calls, he runs and jumps and answers. And so you'd hear all these stories of people magically being healed, or stuff like that, and it's like, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? A lot of churches have like those healing services and stuff, and people, there'll be lines of people coming up to get healed from things, and they're like, oh, I've been healed of cancer, but they haven't been to the doctor. And you're like, okay, I know you're believing by faith. I understand that. But how about we go to the doctor and get these results first?
Yeah, this is very dangerous mindset.
It is very dangerous. And I've seen people who have claimed to be healed and they die 6 months later. So when you have
people constantly fabricating it, there's no reason that we are doubtful. I mean,
right.
It's like, and they'll go, but yeah, like in their mindset often, and this isn't for everybody, in the mindset of people who think that way, like I used to think, is no, well, Satan, I used to say that the devil is closest to truth. Like he wants to keep everything hidden and he gets as close to truth as he can. So like, there's all these fakes, but that doesn't mean there isn't a true. And it's like, you still have this leap of faith that like everything else can be debunked and disproven, but all that does is show you're debunking Satan's work, or somehow like showing that Satan's active in the community in some way, shape, or form. But he's doing it to get everyone else to really stop believing in the reality of these things by making you think, oh, well, this is all fake, and getting more people to fall away. And it's almost like you have to ask at some point, does Satan have more power than God then? Because
exactly.
you have like Satan's winning the battle as far as proving all this crap isn't actually true. What do we do at that point? So obviously Jonathan Sheffield, he's in the chat. He's a Christian, but he's not like fundamentalist, if that makes sense. He's me and him hang out, we talk and we disagree, but he's super mature about it. I got to give you a chance. You and JoJo haven't said anything. Before you do, though, real quick, before you do, you know, I always got to do this shameless on me, you know. I do want to plug Danny's channel. If you guys are interested in philosophy, go check out his works. He's got a YouTube channel, and I already posted it in the chat, so look for it. Go subscribe to it. And thanks, Danny, for joining us here.
I appreciate it. Thank you for that shameless plug.
Absolutely. Totally not shameless at all. Like, I'm totally having fun. All right. Jonathan, what's up? JoJo, what's up?
Well, first, I do want to thank everyone for allowing me to join. I'm actually a big fan of Danny's work. Enjoy some of the stuff that Dr. Kip has done. Gnostic, I've seen you, Informer, I've seen you around too. Very appreciative of your feedback and comments, and then getting to know everyone else. Yes, as Derek says, you know, I grew up in the Anglican Communion. We do take pride in our empirical tradition, while we do have our religious beliefs. Obviously, we're not anti-vaxxers or anything else. Francis Bacon, you know, we do take credit for him for the scientific method, which kind of goes back to our empiricism tradition. But yeah, you know, for me, I think there's a lot of wild. I think there's a lot of wild stories that do come out of a lot of these groups. You know, I think from the Anglican perspective, there was a break. Not only with the Church of England and the emergence of all these sectarian groups that came out. And I think what we've seen come about is all these ideas and views that I probably wouldn't particularly agree with, especially the notion that, well, I'm just going to have my faith heal me instead of actually going to a doctor and checking it out. So
that would be a great idea to go see a medical professional. Dragonson Genesis, subscribe to his channel. He is awesome. I mean, like, I can go on and on, but seriously, love him. He gets into cool stuff like me. We always like to get into weird stuff like Enoch. Like, why the hell do you care about Enoch? Well, the Christians cared about Enoch, but obviously Christians today often don't. I'm not saying all. I'm not trying to paint a universal brush here, but they usually say, it's not in the canon, and it doesn't need to be something we study. So anyway, JoJo, what is going on, my friend?
I wanted to say something. MythVision podcast is a good show. I want to tell you something. Prophet Muhammad's story is so wonderful if you take his story without too deep details. Mm-hmm. For example, the 7 heavens and the Prophet Muhammad followed with a guiding spirit animal after the death of the wife Khadija. It means it's a kind of a spiritual journey for the prophet. And I'm sorry, Prophet Muhammad said that the Quran message should be spread around the world, as Christians say, not to conquest but to peace. That's what I learned when I was young. I will give a good side of Islam now. We heard enough of the other side. I'm sorry. Islam is canonized like Christianity with Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan, like what was happened in the Council of Nicaea. There's a peaceful side of Islam. Islam says there is a cure for every medicine. It says that we need to give charity to the poor, and it has a warm feeling. I'm sorry. I will be happy if this side of Islam is taught to students. Watch the Zaytuna College. I think it would be good if someone will give an explanation for Islam on the show. Gnostic Informant, you have good takes on Hinduism. about the lion and the number 7. I thank you very much. The golden age of Islam that pursues science will come back, inshallah. I want to invite the Muslims on the MythVision podcast for like inspiring philosophy did to Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, inspiring philosophy is a good show too. He explains many things about the Bible, about Genesis, the chaos before the creation kind of way. And yes, I want to give this a warm feeling to the show.
Well, I definitely plan on having more. I mean, I just opened the door, and something that I have noticed, I hope you understand where I'm coming from, is this whole channel, though it's about information and getting people's ideas out there, it is about showing how human these religions are. I don't believe they're divine. I believe we as humans have all that is needed, right, to experience these things. Muslims experience the same things Christians are experiencing, the same things that Jews are experiencing, the same things that Hindus are experiencing, the same things that Buddhists, everyone is experiencing these things. And to rise up and say Christianity is truer, right, by Christians, or to rise up and say Judaism is the truth, or Hinduism, and everybody wants their view, I'm kind of debunking that by showing, and I'm not debunking it like facetiously, even though sometimes I have fun and I get carried away joking about these things. The goal is to show you that they're all cultural and human developed ideas. And so I will have Muslims come on. I'll have Muslims debate Muslims on. But I caught a lot of crap, and I've had to block a lot of people on Twitter already out the gate because I had an ex-Muslim come on and describe the horror she had to deal with her own experience within Islam. I do the same thing for Scientology, but I don't get Scientologists coming to me like trying to harass me, trying to go crazy on the fact that I interviewed 5, 6, 7 different ex-Scientologists or ex-Christians or people who may have left Judaism or whatever it might be, or if they're atheists, you name it. It's happened though already with Islam, which shows me that there's an insecurity there and there's a super sensitivity to this topic that people feel like they can't touch. I mean, I'm touching it, but I'm trying to do it in a delicate and fragile way. And I know there's beauty. There's beauty in all of these religions if you actually put yourself in the shoes of trying to understand them in like try to become a Muslim for a second and think like that. Sure, we can think things in that way and go, okay, there's some beauty to these teachings in some sense. There's some things I don't think are beautiful at all in our context. It might have worked in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia in the 1400s or something in the 1600s or whatever, but I will bring more people on, but it's not a conversation of like, hey, promote Islam for the next hour and a half on MythVision. I can't wait for everybody to like think this is the truth and this is the way. My whole channel is to view or have the vision on the myth. It's literally MythVision. So the whole point is to look through all of these religions for how they develop. What the point is these are people who are developing ideas probably in their surrounding cultures, such as Christianity and Judaism were in Saudi Arabia around the time where Muhammad's popping up on the scene, if there was a Muhammad, and I'll go ahead and grant there was. And he's borrowing these ideas from pre-Islamic, Arabic, pagan cultures, as well as Christianity and Judaism. And he creates, if you will, a movement out of these building blocks in his area. It didn't require a miracle. That's where I'm coming from, is trying to give people that stuff. And look, I want them to know, I don't want them to think this is like a bash Islam channel. No, but we do kind of debunk the literal notion that Muhammad is actually the prophet of God, or that, you know, Islam says Jesus wasn't crucified. Well, I mean, all the literature, if you go back, says he was crucified, right? Except maybe some what people would call fringe, but really it's these outskirt movements that are really a minority that might have like Gnostic ideas potentially or something. And I entertain it all, it just tells me, where did they get this idea? And I'm looking for the human origin.
Are you telling me that you had to block someone on Twitter? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, yeah, there was like 20 or 25 guys because of this Zara K video that I did, where she pointed out that in one of the countries somewhere, I don't know exactly where they practice this, but she said that a woman, if she's raped, which we know the virginity and antiquity in some countries, that's the most important part. Like, she is bad goods if she loses her virginity, someone rapes her or something like that. And long story short, she pretty much was saying that they have to marry them, or their father would, in a sense, say, look, you need to marry my daughter now to take care of her, because he'd be stuck with the responsibility. I caught crap for 2-3 days, and I was tired of seeing the repetitive, like, what are you going to do to Zara? Why are you letting her create false information? This, that. Well, today, Abdullah Samir interviewed a woman activist who lived in Pakistan all of her life. She said the exact things Zara K said. And I went, where are those 25 Muslims? Now they're going to run and go bash this woman on Abdullah Samir's video. Women don't really get the voice in some of these more aggressive versions of Islam. And it's like, yeah, I'm blocking you guys. It's not worth my time or energy when I know that there are also biblical precedents for these ideas, which is what I said in my interview with her. Anyway, we're going off topic, but
Sorry,
Jojo,
Derek.
no. Go ahead.
I want to say something. I know what you mean, because I'm following this show. I love this show, and I am happy that you are following Islam now. I'm really, really happy. Only what I want to say was, I want to give the warm depth of Islam. I myself am a deist now.
Right.
I want to say, like Gnostic Informant, he had especially good information about Lion, about Shiva, the seven heavens, Sbah, and that kind of things. I want to dive deeper to Islam, not the standard narrative that we have, like when there was a Prophet Muhammad and there's Kaaba in Mecca, that kinds of things. He created a religion. No, I don't. I want to see it with spiritual lenses, on a different kind of way, like Gnostic or Gnostic Christianity and other kind of religions. I don't want to say the Sufi way. I want to have the deeper meaning of some things, like Prophet Muhammad flew to heaven with a spirit animal. It has different meanings. Like his mother, his wife Khadija died, and thereafter he went to this journey. It sounds like a chakra journey, or the seven chakras, the seven heavens, that kind of way. Yes, it is MythVision, myth, and myth had some spirituality in it, or it has spiritual meanings behind.
Yeah. I don't want to take away the idea that there's definitely spiritual ideas behind Gospels, Hebrew Bible, you name it. They all have spiritual tendencies there, and if not, people probably wouldn't believe them if there wasn't something that somehow caught them and gave them an experience. But I do want to let Caleb Jackson know. Caleb, we're gonna just be patient, my friend, because there's a panel and it only allows 10 at a time, and so we'll be filtering through here. Apostate Prophet, Scholar Vid, welcome. Just in time for the topic of Islam, really. My friend Jojo's trying to point out, like, there's always an allegorical approach to these ideas. Most Christians, for example, will read Mark and say that's literal historical. When I talk to some of the skeptic scholars, even, they're like, hold on, Mark seems to be very allegorical, like a parable. And
I was actually going to say, I think Carl Jung's approach to this whole divine thing, where he kind of looks at the archetypes of these characters and tries to use it as like a method for his psychology. And I think that's a very useful approach to this, instead of just throwing everything out as like it's all just a bunch of garbage myth from the past, you know.
This guy. Oh man. I'm sorry. I had to, guys. I had to. Would you guys like to comment on that? Jojo's point of like looking at these things. This gets into your point yesterday when I texted you, AP. Like, there's a gentleman, and he was on here earlier, by the way. He mentioned you and said, "Hey, will he debate me?" And you said, "Well, I mean, like, not even Muslims agree with him, right? Like, meaning like the majority." And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm trying to bring a more peaceful approach." And I think Jojo's saying he doesn't believe the literal narrative, but he's saying like, why don't we paint it as like a deeper allegorical truth? Is there any of that in your research of the Quran and stuff that maybe people are literalizing that shouldn't be literalized? I don't know.
Yeah, I was listening in earlier. I saw that some guy came on and said that I refused to talk to him. Hi, by the way. And I don't know. I thought I should maybe hop in and quickly say hi, say something about that. So my whole approach to the situation is, I mean, I understand that there are certain people who have a different perspective within Islam. You know, who have a reformist or modernist, who have these heretical, you know, from their perspective, views that are quite different from the orthodox, from the traditionalist and the mainstream approach. And I do appreciate their existence. I appreciate the fact that we have Quran only Muslims or reformist Muslims and all that. The problem is, I just don't know what the point would be in me, you know, having a debate with somebody who doesn't even believe in most of the things that 95% of Muslims believe. It's like, I don't even know who I'm talking to. What are we supposed to debate? I mean, I don't know. It's just I didn't see the point of having an exchange in that direction. But I completely welcome it. I really appreciate it that there are people who do have different approaches and who do want to publicize those approaches when it comes to, you know, modernism or viewing Islam from a more mystical perspective, like the guy who was just on here. I mean, it is nice.
Yeah, and even I don't know if it was so much a debate he's looking for, is more I think just conversation. Even we can maybe talk about that in the future. But I'm all for people trying, because if you can't get rid of that worldview, of course, I mean, wouldn't you rather go in a direction that seems to treat people good, and try to go in the direction of giving people more freedoms, women not mandatorily wearing hijab, for example, things like that. Like, I would love to see that start to happen, but things keep happening. It's like the people you're dealing with are trying to go and show this is a problem at the end of the day. And I don't quite agree with people. I do understand when the people say like Islam is the problem. I understand that position, but it's almost like the lesser evil, right? What would you rather do? Get rid of the whole worldview? Sure. I wish that there was a way to replace the worldview with something completely different, a humanist approach, whatever. But if you can't do that and people are stuck needing to believe that he's the prophet, I would rather them go in a progressive spiritualist, like you say, some type of view. And I'd be happy to hear what someone has to say on that.
I have a question to the apostate. You said that you were hesitant to have a debate with someone who didn't even agree with 90% of what your beliefs were. Am I correct in that assessment?
Of what most Muslims believe in. Yeah.
In that case, you would only find yourself in a situation where you would only debate people that mostly agree with your views. What's the point in that?
Oh, they don't agree with his views.
No, not with my views. What I'm saying is I don't see the point in debating people who don't share the views of the vast majority of Muslims. So very fringe Muslims who have views that only, I don't know, like 1% of Muslims believe in. I don't see the point in debating them. I would rather debate somebody who has widely accepted Muslim beliefs and positions. So it's not agreeing with me. They are supposed to agree with the traditional Islamic understanding or with most Muslims. You know, otherwise there's not much that I can debate with them.
Yeah, it's like a progressive Christian debating like a Democrat, right, on politics.
It would be like debating a Catholic versus debating someone from the KKK. You know, I mean, it's that level of extremism versus the regular religion. You know.
Yeah.
Bad analogy, but I get the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say though.
It's such a minority position. He's almost like it'd be great to see it actually make waves and change what we see in the world as far as Islam. But like you recently clipped, I think, some debate yesterday. I didn't even get to watch it yet, AP. But the guy
Everyone should see
so
it.
over the top. I mean, slavery, women, the way you beat your wife. I mean, like he's like, would you rather the state beat your wife or the husband and the man that you know is going to beat her the right way? And it's like, whoo, no.
More than
filter,
that.
bro.
Child marriage. He said that child marriage is among the wholesome values that Islam has, and that human rights extremism is destroying these wholesome values of these cultures. That's what he said. I mean, I just published a video, the excerpt of that this morning.
Yeah, but then your argument is completely different because you're excluding people because they do not share the basic principles of humanity, right? It's not the same thing as excluding people because they are fringe. Because if you compare to the Christian debate or the debate around Christianity, by that assumption, you would exclude people like Richard Carrier and Bob Price because they are fringe, right? I don't think they should be excluded. I think your criteria is slightly different, which is a good one, I think.
Well, I wouldn't exclude them. The issue is, I just don't see why I would be debating these people. Let me put it this way: I have a limited life. I have a limited time in my during my day. I have only so much nerve that I can put into this, and with that, I would rather want to spend my time actually tackling and battling and debating, disagreeing with people who hold with very widely held beliefs that I think are very deluded and very dangerous. I would rather have debates with people like the guy yesterday, for example, who has thousands of, or I don't know, over 100,000 of followers and viewers. I would rather want to debate him and solve the problem that is going on there, because there is not much of a point in debating somebody who has 50 followers because he has such a fringe position that nobody agrees with him. My words to that guy would be, hey, I see what you're doing. You want to take your beliefs into a good direction, and I endorse it. I support it. Please go ahead and convince Muslims that your views are right. I just don't see why I would have a disagreement with you.
I mean, that's pretty well put, I have to admit. He wants to come back in the chat. We've got a full chat room here. So
I'll take my leave, Derek. Thanks for having me on. I was the first one on the panel. So
Danny, man, thanks for coming on, dude. Always fun hearing from you. Everyone go subscribe to Danny if you want to hear about philosophy and stuff. Really deep into that stuff. So thanks for joining us, bro.
Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
You too.
I think I'm going to stay because I like being the only woman on the panel. I'm just saying.
We need a woman's voice now. We need a woman's voice.
Yes. So
I just sent the link, though, just so he knows. I mean, look, I don't want to get caught up in this long time because AP, you do have a lot of stuff to do. And, I do appreciate what you're doing. As you see, I'm trying to take more of an interest in looking into this critically. However, I totally agree with the way you just described that. It's if it's that big of a deal and there's that many people in the world actually believing in this thing, like imagine, I'm using this as probably not a great analogy, especially if I'm trying to make friends that are Muslims, but they might even agree with me on this. Imagine if suicide bombing was actually like a primary teaching within this religion. And we know how bad that is. I mean, we've experienced this and we've seen this. Imagine if that was a primary teaching and another guy says, no. What it meant was you should explode within on truth or something. Like, I'm just giving you a horrible example, but it's like you should explode with energy for God and like go out and be passionate and try and show goodness to your neighbors. Well, if most people were doing like really, really extreme things that you're like, no, I mean, I'll pat the guy on the back, but I'm going to go combat these horrible ideas that are really affecting the world in a negative way. So I get where he's coming from. And I think you would agree, Scholar Vid. I think you actually agree with that now that he expressed what he meant. Mr. Monster, thank you for the super chat. Anyway, sorry. But he's in the chat. Let's see what he has to say. Please, I hope your microphone works better this time, Dawa. So yes. AP is in here. Look, not too long. When you guys, look, don't want to like take over the whole thing, but please.
I don't want to occupy this whole thing. I just wanted to say hi, but yeah, sure, we can have a exchange quickly. Yeah.
Yes, I hope you hear me. I just would like to say, first of all, just because I have few followers, it doesn't mean that I'm alone. I don't know if you have heard anything about PMOI. apostate prophet.
What, PMY?
Is People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran. Have you heard about them?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Yeah, so don't think that I'm the only one. It's a great organization, is totally opposite to everything you have ever heard about Islam. So I'm also a supporter of such organizations. I'm not alone. And then you ask a question about Kaaba, and nobody could give you the right answer. If I can give you the right answer, so why not to talk to me? I'm not going to debate you in that way. I'm going to, to talk to you, to answer your questions that nobody else can answer.
Let's do it now. Let's ask the question now. The Kaaba.
That will
I hope
take
I'm
very
saying that
long.
right. No, I don't want to get caught up, but I mean, like, let's just ask this question real quick. And I'd love to hear AP respond to what you think the Kaaba actually is saying or what it means. Please tell us what you would say you disagree with the Muslims or the other Muslims on, and what your position is.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that, yes, as also AP said, is a quite deep discussion. But if I want to say it very short, is that the Prophet Adam came with the first message, and then other prophets came with more message. So Prophet Muhammad came with the final message, okay, including the first and all middle messages. So the final message was left for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It didn't come in Bible or Torah, because it wasn't meant to come with those messengers. And the final message was, it is very, very deep discussion. I say that the final message came with the Prophet Muhammad, and that's why the final message was that we worship Kaaba, we go to Hajj, and that's very, very important part of Islam. Unfortunately, majority of Muslims have, misunderstood it. They haven't understood it. That's a very, very deep discussion. I would love to take it in another time. And everything I say, and everybody have ever heard me, they said that whatever you say makes sense. It's beautiful. So this is not something.
Can I quickly interrupt you? Did you mean to say worship Kaaba, or did you just misspeak?
No, I just misspeak. I mean to prostrate towards Kaaba.
Okay, I see.
Prostrate, yes, prostrate towards Kaaba, and it is not a wall we prostrate to. In reality, this is, I say that I know that this is very, very deep discussion. We prostrate those dress of ihram. I don't know, AP, what does it mean? Okay, we prostrate those dress of ihram. We say, show me the right way. The right way is those dress of ihram, and that's. I would love to take it in another time. Another thing is that AP, when I say that killing apostate goes against Quran, so you cannot say because 95% of Muslims believe in it, so I don't want to debate you. You cannot persuade Muslims that this is a man-made rule.
Do you believe in the hadiths?
I believe in hadith, but I believe that hadith should go in line with Quran, not contradict Quran. Okay, and
but
this
you are
is
a Shia Muslim, right?
No, I'm not a Shia. I'm not a Sunni. I converted to Islam, and I believe in everything rational. Okay, mostly I believe in Quran, but I believe in Hadith, which goes in line with Quran. Do you understand?
Here's the issue, dear Perfect Double. I'm sorry for interrupting. I mean, I very much got the point, but here's the problem. Like, for example, you give the apostasy example. I go out there and I argue against the whole ruling of killing apostates, for example.
I do too. I do too.
Okay, very nice. The issue is among Sunni Muslims and among the Shia Muslims, all accepted schools, jurisprudential schools, except maybe for the exception of among the Shia, the Ismaili Muslims, which are not even properly accepted as Muslims, they all mostly agree, or the scholarly consensus there is among the accepted schools, that apostates are to be put to death. Now, I argue against that. When you now come out and tell me, hey, this is actually not right, Islam doesn't order to kill apostates, then what am I supposed to argue against? I will argue that this is the held position because of the Quran and the Hadith and the scholarly consensus. And you will then give me a counter argument to that, which is not only a counter argument to me, but also a counter argument to the majority of Muslim apologists. And recent Muslim scholars. And what am I supposed to do with that information? Muslim apologists, the traditionalists, will just come out and will reject your explanation, denounce your explanation, and our debate will get nowhere. I will not have achieved anything by this. I will not have changed anyone's mind by this. And this is the entire point. I mean, I see what you're doing, and I really appreciate that, but I just don't see how it would be, beneficial and useful to what I am doing to engage in discussions with fringe Muslims who may have better beliefs than other Muslims.
No, but I just want to say, when you put this Daniel Haqiqatju, who is clear ISIS, and you say this is true Islam, that's not correct. Because if I believe that that's true Islam,
I didn't say this is true Islam. I said this is true.
Yes, it was written the true Islam.
No,
the true face of
Islam. Face of Islam. That's,
exactly the true face of Islam. But anyway, and if I believe that what Daniel says, that then I should also come and kill you. Okay, so this is you need to help me to help you as well. Understand? Because you cannot change their mind. I can change their mind. I can tell them that and then it's not just me, and it is not just Ismailia or whatever you say. There are scholars I have on my channel. I have scholars who are going against this, and say that this goes against Quran, because Quran says that those who left Islam believed and then disbelieved and then believed and then disbelieved. So they bring this and say that no, Quran doesn't say to kill them, because they believed and then disbelieved, then believed and then disbelieved. So there are verses of Quran that say like no compulsion religion, all these things, they bring all them and say that this hadith is a fabricated hadith. I have proof.
And this is your interpretation of the Quran and of why you think the Hadith contradict with the Quran. The problem is their interpretation is not that way, and the traditionalist interpretation is not that way. I mean, I agree with Derek's suggestion here earlier. He said it would be good for him. It would be good for your purposes to come back to his channel sometime and to have a discussion with a traditionalist Muslim, for example.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to
have a discussion with them and to convince them why their beliefs are wrong and why your beliefs and your interpretations are right. I completely endorse that, and maybe I could support that on my channel as well.
Yes, please. Please.
I just don't see the benefit of a confrontation between you and me, because
there'd be no contention here, because and I do want to say I think that Apostate Prophet is really on your side and saying he would love to see you do that more.
Yeah,
but it's the problem of if it's not actually impacting. That's the thing we need to start making happen.
Yes,
so,
I would love to. Yes, I would love that you help me. You invite I don't know, you, for example, that Daniel Haqiqatju, you can invite him. I can talk to him, because I don't know him. I don't have any contact with him. Any one of you, such a people, you can. I was in Pancreas channel. There was a fellow Muslim. Came on, his name was Adam. I wish that Pancake was here. Whenever I was asking him something, he was saying, "Oh, I don't know, I have to go and study this." Okay, so I would love to discuss such a people, to show them, to prove them that you're wrong. This is not Islam. Islam never allowed me to kill even a murderer. I have these evidences that yourself that Abu Sufyan was the biggest enemy of Islam. He killed hundreds of Muslims, and when Prophet Muhammad didn't kill even him. Okay.
Very, very nice, very nice. Can be brought up. I mean, I think Derek would be happy to host such a conversation. It would be
we'll plan it.
I doubt that Daniel Haqiqatju will ever come to my channel again. But it would be nice to have such a conversation on MythVision or with somebody else on my channel. I don't know.
Yes,
but I don't want to take more time with this from Derek's channel. I think.
But contact me, AP, if you would love once. Talk to me. Contact me. Through my channel or whatever.
I'll send that information over to AP and let him know. And then, of course, he'll do with it what he wants. And then you and me will stay in contact. Thank you for coming back on, my friend.
Thank you.
And then,
I'm sorry. Got to go. No, because we got people waiting.
It's too much.
So,
too much
AP,
time.
Did you want to say something? And then we...
I actually just wanted to say hi. I didn't expect to stay this long and have all these discussions.
It was all a plan. No. Seriously, man, I'm glad to have met you and made your acquaintance and friendship and everything, and continue to work with you on trying to educate people, get them to kind of free their minds, if you will. Realize that people are good. They don't need these laws and rules, so to speak, forced onto them. And So yeah, I appreciate
Absolutely.
you, man, for tuning in.
I think you are on a great quest as well with your channel and the direction that you recently started going into, the decision that you have made to also analyze Islam, which many people in the West, many atheists in the West are very sensitive about and very afraid of. Even the big, atheist advocate channels are very afraid of this topic. So it's very nice that you do this. I really appreciate this. I hope more will come. I just hope great things will come from this, and I'm always here to support that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, bro. That was so kind. Yeah, I hope so. And I think the way we can approach this, we can show why there should be no fear in approaching this in the West. I think too many times it's like black or white. There's no balanced approach on how you can come into this sensitive area, because it is very sensitive. I mean, it's not open to criticism like Christianity is at all. I mean, Caleb's a Christian. He just popped on. I mean, like yeah. And I mean, he's a friendly guy. I've watched him interact and stuff, and I'm sure we'll disagree on 20,000 things when it comes to this, but agree with 20,000 other things. And Christianity's used to this game, and we're just trying to open that door where we can take an approach that shows we don't hate people, but we definitely don't like the ideology. That's for sure. Separating the people, so to speak, from the ideology, I think is important as well. Like, you can have ideologies, but I'm not a Christophobe because I disagree with Christianity or I don't conclude that, and that goes for Islam as well. So
well put. All right, I'll leave you guys to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, bro.
Have fun. Have a good day, everybody.
You too, man.
See you, man. And stay away from Islam.
Peace out, brother. Caleb, what's up, man?
Hi, Derek. How are y'all doing?
Good. Welcome to MythVision.
Thank you. I know it's nice to be here. It's nice to have this panel and everything on, because I was watching. I was like, oh, is there like a link to join? And then I had to find it in the chat. It was going through, but yeah.
Well, look, I'm popping everybody who's in the waiting area. Dr. Josh and Nephilim Free. Welcome to MythVision Podcast.
Nice to see you. I hope everybody is well.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Well, it can't be Dr. Josh because he's here as well. Or maybe this is the new troll. He can he's got 2 StreamYard accounts, and he can talk without moving his lips, and that's the
speaking in tongues, I guess. Yeah.
How mind blown would you be if there was a Dr. Josh and then there was the impersonating Ken Hovind account both in the chat at the time?
I'd be like, he pre-recorded this or something. Like, how did he do it?
I don't know what you guys are talking about, frankly.
Yeah, it's above your head. I know. You don't even know.
Guys want to see what Megan's working on?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is Humbaba. It's
wow.
The
cool
thing she's doing with a laser.
Wow.
What? That's cool looking.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
But it's
what is that material?
I think this is just wood, but she can make it out of acrylic, but she had to make it in layers.
Oh, that's cool.
To make it 3D. Yeah, she's been working on it really hard, but that's just like phase 1 of it, I guess. It's going to go a lot deeper. Anyway.
Right.
Is that part of the merchandise?
I think it will be, yeah.
Oh, shit. I'm going to buy one.
She said it's 3 layers out of 10.
Nice.
Mr. Monster, thanks for the super chat, my friend. I hope I didn't miss anyone super chat wise. I was stuck in the private chat harassing the guys in here. So, and then a girl, of course, Camille. So, we've been talking behind the scenes. We are murmuring about some of you that are in the chat section. Don't feel like it's you though. Anyway,
I have a question to the panel.
Sorry, Scott.
Yeah, I have a question to the panel, maybe specifically to Dr. Bowen and Dr. Kip. It's about the concept of appearances in the ancient world, okay? My understanding is that it could be as broad as encompassing as well dreams, okay? Let's take, for example, Paul. Paul says that Christ appeared to him. Could it not be just saying that Christ appeared to me in a dream?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not, just from that.
Right, because I think there was like a consensus, especially among apologetics, that when Paul refers to that particular passage, he's talking about a physical person. But my understanding is that the concept of appearances in the ancient world is much more vast than that. It can integrate a lot of different concepts that I don't think are being really touched.
I mean, to be fair, Pauline, stuff in the New Testament is outside of my field of expertise, but
mine too.
Derek is the guy to go to. Tell me, Derek. What
I
do you
mean,
think?
it's very possible, from what I understand, that visionary experiences definitely could take place in that way. There are, like you said, there are multiple ways to look at this. Most of the scholars that I've talked to, who obviously don't believe, or even if they believe in something different than Christianity, they come down to like a
Hey, what's up?
A
I
spiritual.
turned my camera off.
No, we hear you, Kip.
Your mic.
Yeah,
I don't
go ahead.
know. No.
Just tell us everything that's going on, Kip. Just tell us everything.
What's up?
I think you can put him on mute, Derek. I think.
Yeah, you should do that. You probably should. Yeah.
I think he's probably muted. Let's see. Okay, here we go. All right, he knows how to unmute. But no, I think you're right. There are different ways we could look at this. I muted you, Kip, just because I didn't want your private information getting out.
Oh, whoops! I forgot.
It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it can be really frustrating. I understand. If somebody's like, I don't know, vacuuming or maybe doing the dishes or something, and then all of a sudden their private musings just kind of get broadcasted out.
Yeah.
I've heard.
Exactly.
Humming their favorite tune, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. No, I think it's possible, right? I think there's different ways of looking. It's not just possible; it's probable that there are other ways of looking at this in the ancient world. And some take the literal approach. They want to harmonize Paul's idea of a resurrected Christ with what we see later in Luke and John, and they say that physical, appearance, if you will, his physical showing himself to the disciples is what they think Paul meant. There are other scholars who say, no, Paul believes in like a spiritual material, whatever that even means, that it's not literal flesh and blood, but that in the ancient world, it's a wholly different kind of body. It's not the same as what you would see that goes into the tomb. And that they say there's a disconnect. And what ends up happening by the time you get to Luke and John, they're saying, well, there's so many people who are saying he didn't rise from the dead, quit saying that they embellished narrative over time and said, no, we touched him. He ate he ate with us. He had flesh, like they went so far as to go out of their way to make narrative saying this is literal physical. At the end of the day, you could still take the literal approach and still walk away saying, I don't believe this is literally true. Could they have hallucinated? That's another possibility. I mean, there's other ways to look at this. There's some people who even think that psychedelics in the early church played a role. Very, very minor view, but there are people who do think that mystery school cults, if you will, practiced these type of rituals and may have experienced something in a trance type situation. And I have had those experiences before, not with Jesus, but I'm saying like I've taken and ingested things in the past. So I know what it's like to hallucinate on psychedelics. And, you can definitely go see God if you really want to.
You had yours with Enlil, right?
Enlil. Yeah, it was Enlil. Yeah. It wasn't Marduk. Marduk wasn't on the scene for sure.
I met Brahma at DMT.
About that, though, group hallucinations don't occur, though. I can see somebody arguing that if they are inclined to, that someone who says they saw the resurrected Jesus privately, maybe you could make an argument that that's hallucinatory. But group hallucinations, they don't occur. So
let me ask
when
you
the apostles.
This is a good question.
Wait a minute.
When the
Then that
apostles
throws
say that
out the water.
When the apostles say that they jointly witnessed Jesus risen from the grave, we can't account for that with the idea of group listening.
Only one apostle says it, which is Paul.
Hold on. Can I make a comment as the Christian, as one of the other Christians here, or do we want to get someone else to jump in? Okay. Well, I actually was going to say I kind of have different thoughts. So I actually disagree with Nephilim Free here, and I'm saying this as the Christians. I don't like the apologetic answer of, well, group hallucinations don't happen. I mean, if you're defining hallucination in the strictest psychological term, then that's technically true. But we do know that there are collective religious experiences, there are mass delusions, there are mass hysteria, that can happen when you get groups of people thinking they can see something. So I don't really like that. And you see that also with Marian apparitions, by the way. Large groups of people will see the Virgin Mary.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
But you acknowledge that group hallucinations don't occur, though, right?
No. I think that's what they're discounting, though. Now, granted, if you're a Catholic, you might say, well, that's begging the question. We don't know there's hallucinations, and that's fine. I'm not Catholic. But so I don't really think that's a good response, because I do think group experiences can happen. However, going back to the prior question, I don't necessarily think that one can account, at least in the Christian sense, of seeing these as just dreams. And that's because, and I think, a point that's been hammered on a lot within the past 20 years or so, is that people back then were familiar with visions, dreams, and stuff like that. Even people today who see apparitions don't say, well, therefore, I might have seen my dead grandmother, but she's not walking out of the graveyard. And so when you have this idea of bodily resurrection, people knew what ghosts were back then. In fact, in the Gospels, they think the ghost, and they're not convinced until they touch him. So was that?
I was just going to say, would you also not agree that in many instances, like today, people struggle to tell the difference?
They do, but I don't know people who claim that their loved ones has been bodily resurrected. Now, granted, there are cultural differences and stuff like that with apocalyptic expectation, but that still pertains as well to that culture as well. So
in James's book, where he puts together as like an alternative explanation for the minimal facts, he gives several examples of people today who think, for example, that their children are still living and have these delusions persist for 30 years plus. So this isn't like a knockdown. You can still interpret but it is like an empirically borne out phenomena that people.
Right, but yes, it does. But it also depends on the cultural context, because we can say, well, people today believe this, and people back then believe that. But people back then believe different things people today believe, and so forth. So it's not. And I realize that I just used modern examples, which is sloppy of me. But you can look at other ancient examples like Apollonius of Tyana, for example, when one of his disciples has a dream of him, and he says Apollonius is living on in the soul. But he doesn't speak of bodily resurrection, or you could talk about like Romulus being taken up into heaven, and some of the other, or Aristeus, and these are more akin to bodily assumptions and to spiritism, but they're not akin to bodily resurrection that Christians meant. So I think that's just
even so, if you look in the Old Testament where they talk about the witch of Endor, where Saul goes to the local soothsayer, necromancer, to speak to the spirit, because he's not getting an answer from the prophets. And you have the apparition of Samuel come up.
Right.
And he's like terrified, Right. Yeah. Of course, I'm saying apparitions. But they actually thought that this was actually the soul of Samuel. Right. And also looking
probably in the Old Testament, they probably had a much stronger sense of physicality. I mean,
well, it's still in that era. Right.
Sorry, what was that?
I say it's probably still in that era, right? I mean, give or take a few hundred years.
You're talking about 1st, 2nd Samuel. That's almost well, depending on when you're dating. I mean, it's probably about 1,000 years, maybe less than that, before the Old Testament. Dr. Josh would know more about the dating of the Old Testament than I would, but it's
Kip and Josh,
pre-Babylonian, maybe, but
yeah.
So, I mean, when it comes to hallucination, though, it's not plausible, is it, that people jointly hallucinated that they're standing together, speaking with a real human being?
Are you a charismatic Nephilim free?
That kind of hallucination just doesn't happen. Nobody's reported that kind of thing. No psychologist.
Are you a charismatic?
Is that correct? No, I'm not charismatic.
So when charismatics every Sunday report appearances of Jesus in their churches, presumably you think that they're having a group religious experience? That's false.
I've never heard of such a thing. No.
Oh, you haven't been to a charismatic church?
No. Perhaps they might feel the presence. They might say they feel the presence of God, but I've never heard of anyone in a church saying that they jointly see a physical Jesus Christ.
We have an account by the former governor of Illinois that during, and this is a stretch to Mormonism, that, and this is a third-hand account, so I don't know how accurate this is, but he said that he saw Joseph Smith have a box. He opened it up and he said, "Here are the golden plates." The Mormons looked down. They said, brother Joseph. We don't see the plates. Joseph yells at them and says, "Repent, brethren, for your sinners." They get on their knees and pray for 2 hours. And eventually, after 2 hours, they look in the box, and now they can see the plates finally. Okay. So that could be a hypothetical. And so I'm not saying that.
But that's not really the same, is it, as a group of people having the same hallucination that they're standing there talking with?
Well, I don't think they know
a human being. Right?
Gentlemen, this is the problem.
That kind of thing doesn't actually happen.
Real quick, Nephilim, this is the problem. We don't have great detailed information. We have a statement, a creedal statement in 1 Corinthians 15 that says, he appeared to 500. I mean, we don't know what that means. We don't really know exactly when he says he appeared to 500. Does that mean he walked around and he floated up to heaven in front of 500? Is this possibly interpolated? I'm not saying it is. I'm making the point that what does it actually mean when it says that? And when we get rationalizing, like, okay, did groups see this? Like 500,000 people say they saw Mary appear, and she's, the mother of God. And they're like, they all go back and tell the story about how they actually saw Mary, and they're like, this is real. I saw Mary. She really was physically there. I saw her. And everyone starts to believe it. It's very likely.
Well, I think we should take the text on its face value. If it says that 500 saw him at once together, the text
saw him physically.
You can't take it at face value.
No, I'm not saying you have to believe it. I'm not saying, hold on. I'm not saying you have to believe it. I'm just saying that the statement is intended to convey that 500 people actually did see him. That's all I'm saying.
That's exactly what I was going to say. What I was going to say, we don't have 500 accounts of people saying. We have a secondhand account of one person saying that 500 people. If we had 500 accounts saying that they were all there with their names on it, which we don't have, then that would be a little bit more plausible. But what we have is
No, I understand that believing it requires.
Hang on, Nephilim. Hang on, Nephilim. I'm thinking of I know I bring this up, but I feel like it's a good example that the Battle of Mons, right? I mean, that's something that's relatively recent history, and it became international. I mean, many people who were in the fight attested to this. I mean, I'm no expert on it, but again, William Propp has a really good talk on this. But I mean, that's something where you have, a great multiplicity of eyewitness accounts, purportedly eyewitness accounts that, I mean, we would discredit it instantly, I would think.
Well, I'm not saying that because the text says it, that we must believe it. I'm not saying that. I understand that there has to be other reason for believing that Christ resurrected other than just because the Bible says these guys saw it. Yeah. I was only pointing out the group hallucinations of people witnessing and being in the presence of a human being and having a conversation with them. That kind of thing is not known in psychology. Nobody knows of any group hallucinations like that.
Definitely, I would recommend. Actually, I'll recommend this article to everybody because I'm trying to play both sides here. If you couldn't tell, so there is a good article by Jake O'Connell that was published in 2009 in the Tyndale Bulletin called I think it's Jesus' Resurrection and Collective Hallucinations, and he does argue that yes, collective hallucinations can happen. However, he argues that he doesn't think this is applicable in the Christian case, and he gives a pretty interesting argument about.
That's my point.
Well, yeah, but it's not because of the numbers, though. His argument is that they would have seen, given Jewish texts at the time, they would have predicted the resurrection as glorious and luminous and shining, kind of what Paul saw. And he would say that the church, that the disciples would have seen this and they would have preserved it. And with those two premises, he kind of goes back. It's really, I would just recommend people look at that. But he basically argues.
But Paul didn't see the resurrection. Paul didn't see the resurrection. He had an apparition.
Well, he doesn't use the word apparition, but he doesn't say, no one sees the resurrection as in Jesus coming from the grave. They see Jesus after the resurrection, right? After he's appearing to people. And
right, but Paul didn't even, if we're going by what he says in his text, he never met Jesus. He never knew Jesus. So what happened to him on the road to Damascus, that could be what we can consider a hallucination, an apparition, as I like to use, and not or a mass or a hallucination. I mean, it's not, we really can't really say, it's the same thing with in Acts where you have everybody in the upper room and everybody's going through the same thing, with the whole, like the spirit falling upon them and then speaking in tongues and all of that other stuff. That can be kind of linked to the same thing.
Yeah, but it is
that we're discussing at first.
if you're going to quote Acts, where Acts, he's eating and drinking with them, it is a bit nitpicky to pick some parts of Acts that agree with you and some parts that don't. So I would just be careful of picking the sources that, picking from the sources.
I'm not using anything to defend my argument. I'm just pointing out examples that I remember, since I don't literally have my Bible in front of me. I mean, I could go get it, but I don't really have it in front of me. But just going off the top of my head, certain experiences where there was like, not quite apparitions, but there were appearances and stuff like that, especially with Paul, because Paul bases his whole gospels based on what happened to him at the road, on the road to Damascus. And that's what a lot of people preach in churches. I know the churches that I grew up in, that was their main core, was on the teachings of Paul.
Camille, we got it backwards. The road to Damascus narrative is actually later, but Paul does say in Galatians that he did have experiences with a personal Christ, and that So I mean, I think that the Acts narrative is kind of mythologized the historical situation in some sense. Christian,
this thing.
I just had an apparition of "Stop Scamming Man." I could have swore I just saw two $20 super chats hit my frickin' channel. Did you guys see that?
No, I think we're all hallucinating right now. I don't think it's that.
I need one person to tell me that 500 people saw it, please.
Someone in the chat, please tell me.
130 something.
I seriously appreciate you, Caleb, too, on taking this and recognizing this, because, I mean, what is it called when so many people go somewhere, they say they saw Mary. We know this actually happened. They're all saying they saw the literal Mary, Mother of God, whatever, come down from heaven, whatever it might be. They walk away telling other people they saw Mary, the Mother of God. And there's all of these people. They say they're seeing it. So if you want to get technical and say, if I'm literally hallucinating right now, like actually tripping, like if I swallow mushrooms right now, and you're standing next to me and your faculties are perfectly fine, or whatever, we're all in a trance at church, we're not going to hallucinate the exact same thing, but we can be primered to have had a similar experience and walk away interpreting it as this is something we had experienced. So I think that's what Nephilim was trying to say.
Well, what I'm pointing out really
I was forced to get my Bible. I have to jump in here because I was forced to get my Bible.
what I'm
pointing out of my cabinet. So I just want to point this out while it's still fresh on me. Acts chapter 22, where it goes into Paul's testimony. And it came to pass, verse 6, and it came to pass that as I made my journey and was come nigh unto Damascus about noon, mind you, this is the King James Version. All right. Suddenly there shone from heaven a great light around me, and I fell into the ground and heard a voice saying unto me, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And I answered, Who art thou, Lord? And he said unto me, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom thou persecutest. And that they were with me that saw indeed the light, and they were afraid, but they had not heard the voice of him that spake to me. So he had this apparition of Jesus with people around, but nobody else saw him. And, he's like, well, why are you persecuting me on this? So again, that was on the road to Damascus. This is found in Acts, which comes right before Romans.
Yeah,
I had to dig that out.
All I'm saying,
it was bugging me.
No. I get it. What I'm saying is, when you get into the scholarship on dating these things, a lot of the scholars will say Acts is kind of a historical fiction. A lot of them, not all of them. Caleb might disagree with this. That's okay. But the book of Galatians, most scholars across the board say that was written really early. And I like the argument from Dennis McDonald and his one of his students, Michael Kashanas or something like that. He argues that light appearance that we see that Paul gets in the Acts narrative is actually taken from Euripides the Bacchae, where
you saying something about that. Okay.
Dionysus is actually blinding, and I can't remember his uncle's name, he was somebody who didn't believe he was the son of God. But anyway, this is where the Maenads end up grabbing him and shredding him apart after it blinds him. It's also a combination mimetically to, like, I think it's in Samuel where Saul is chasing David, and next thing you know, David goes, Saul, why are you pursuing me? And pursuing and persecute in Greek are the same word. So it's just like using multiple narratives, which makes me kind of go, how much historical reliability should we say that he actually was blinded by a light? Instead, maybe he just had a personal experience and it got mythologized in Acts. I don't know. I'm saying that this is.
You know what's interesting is that I think I've seen different people give different parallels. So I believe Robert Price says that the Acts narrative is based off of Maccabees with the conversion, and I believe that Carrier says that the road to Damascus is ripping off of the road to Emmaus narrative. So it's interesting that you can have all these scholars say, well, this is actually what it's ripping off of. No, this is what that's why I'm very hesitant with this kind of, and you've had Dale Allison on your show, and you know he kind of has that same view of when people point out these parallels, some of them are quite stretched and some of them are you can find parallels with anything you're trying hard enough. So that doesn't mean that there aren't actual parallels there, but it is sometimes difficult to decipher which ones are legitimate and which ones we're just seeing. So
right.
Yeah.
But when it comes to appearances, there's also
congrats on the 30K.
Go ahead.
Nathan.
Yeah. I'm just saying I'm gonna head off because it's 10 p.m. now for me. But,
okay.
Bye, Nathan.
Bye, Nathan.
Yeah, congrats on the 30K, man.
Subscribe. Yeah, thanks, man. Digital Gnosis, everybody.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the appearances because there's also a recurring theme involving light all the time, isn't it? Or in most cases, specifically on the miracles of the Catholic variety. For example, the miracle of Fatima in Portugal, okay? The miracle of the sun, where the sun was supposed to have moved and danced around. And according to the accounts, it was all over the newspaper. 70,000 people, as much as 70,000 people witnessed that miracle, okay? Are we supposed to take it on face value? According to the knowledge we have about hallucinations, memory building, group effect, I think all these kind of phenomena can be explained naturally.
Well, yeah, that is, I will agree to that. I think most Marian apparitions are not legitimate, and that's also because they're not consistent with how they look. So some people, when she appears in Mexico, when she appears in Mexico, she looks Hispanic. When she appears in Europe, she looks white, and so forth. And in Fatima, you have that as well. But, and I say this even as a Protestant, there are some that do make me think, and that I don't have it. It was an easy one. And one of the ones that Dale Allison talks about in his book that's also fairly well known is one that happened in Egypt in the late 60s, early 70s. We actually have photographs of this light that people thought was Mary. And what was interesting is that it appeared on top of the church for several days, like a couple times a week for several years. And the police investigated this. They couldn't find any projection within 15 miles. This was photographed by newspapers. This was seen by everyone there. So nobody denies that this happened. The question is just what caused this light. And the only natural explanation I've been able to find was published in a geology journal about possibly earthquake lights, but even that's been criticized because the phenomenon is not consistent with earthquake lights and so forth. So I think it is interesting, and Allison tries to parallel this by saying, look, we have all these accounts, we have photos, all these people sing Mary, what are the implications for like the resurrection appearances? And I agree with that, but also if I were to concede that this actually was the Virgin Mary, I don't think that would hurt my Christian faith. Maybe I'd have to change denominations, but it wouldn't be inconsistent with my worldview overall. So
I think taken as a whole, the accounts of witnessing the resurrected Jesus can't plausibly be chalked up to hallucination, the individual accounts and then the group account as well. There would have to be something more rational involved. And the best I think that anyone can actually argue is that these separate accounts of having witnessed, like James, Jesus's brother, was likely an unbeliever until he saw the resurrected Jesus and then became a church leader. But
what do you mean when you say an unbeliever?
Well, not convinced that Jesus is who he claimed to be, and and that he was the Son of God.
Jew, though. But he's an apocalyptic Jew, right? So he's preconditioned on this expectation of resurrection.
Let me finish my statement, and then I'll have
to me.
Well, unbeliever, what I meant was that he didn't believe that Jesus was who he said he was. He thought Jesus was, some scholars argue that James comes across as though he thinks Jesus is a little bit mad, for the things he's saying. Here he comes to preach on the earth with the authority of God, not talking about God, but with the actual authority of God in the way that he preached, for example. So, but the point I would make is I think the resurrection accounts can't be chalked up to hallucination. There's too many of them. And too many individuals who report having seen Jesus. So something else would have to be.
Who are all these reports?
What accounts are you talking about? Because we have
James, for example, saw the resurrection.
James wrote an account. We have James's written account.
No, I'm not saying James wrote it.
We don't know that he didn't, but
Okay.
we don't know that we can't prove he did.
Nephilim,
So the point. Let me finish my point, please.
Are you talking about 1 Corinthians 15? Just so I know where you're at in the Bible, because we're trying to figure out where you're at.
I don't recall which passage it is.
I wouldn't make any claims.
But let me please let me finish my statement. So it seems to, kind of blown up. So I think something else is at play here, because it's implausible to me that we can use hallucination to account for the individual experiences of the resurrection of Jesus, and then a group one as well. So the best I think that a non-believer could come up with is a conspiracy theory, that somebody conspired to write
no conspiracy
in such a way as to account for these things. But I would challenge that. That wouldn't make sense to me at all.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever been, and this is a bad analogy, but people experience this all the time who've never been committed. Have you ever been to a mental health hospital and spoke to people who are really suffering with some type of mental issue?
No, of course not.
If you've ever talked to someone who has serious mental health issues, because I work in the field of mental health, they are absolutely convinced and they are sincere that they are God. There are people who say they're God. Now, I'm not talking about Jesus. I'm talking about, I'm just giving you the mind behind people. Nobody's saying that the disciples are lying or that they're making this up or it's a conspiracy. We don't even know enough data to really make those kind of assertions. These are
there is a conspiracy theory,
there's plenty of them. My point is I reserve all of that from making that claim. I'm not making that claim. I'm saying there are plenty of possible explanations. Even Del C. Allison that I interviewed, and I'm going to see him next month. He said on the interview with me that people whose children were dead, love it, good book, and his book on Matthew, really, really deep thinker. All right, these people who lost their children hug their children. They're dead. They're gone. And physically feel lifted up by their children, their oldest son or something that died. Literally were lifted up, and they said, he physically lifted me up. Now, they believe they really experienced their loved one that died already, lifting them up off the ground and having these kind of experiences. So it doesn't require all right, let's go make up this story and say that this isn't true and say that our Christ really rose. No, we don't have to say that it was like a conspiracy like that.
I get what you're saying.
They could have had real experiences.
Yeah,
and
I get what you're saying. Maybe Jesus, let's pretend for a moment Jesus was a madman and he claimed to be, the only begotten Son of God and the propitiation for our sin and God incarnate and all that sort of thing. Okay. So, but then how do we account for the miracles, the witnesses of the various miracles that took place in the texts? If Jesus was just a madman,
Nephilim, real quick.
Were these witnesses to these
Nephilim,
things?
I'm gonna mute you, man. I'm gonna have to mute you if you can't.
Were they madmen too?
I'm gonna have to mute you, man, because you're
not.
Once you make a claim, no, you're not understanding. When you make a claim and then you want to run with 5 more claims and not allow anyone to communicate, that's the problem. So if you're gonna say, look, all of these miracles, there's all these miracle claims. You can't even give me what you're saying from the Bible, but you're making these claims. I understand. I've read the biblical text. I believed it. I'm not antagonistic, but when you make a claim and then you want to jump into 5 or 6 other claims without letting us address the first one, you're just taking over the conversation. You're not allowing dialogue. There's 8 people on the panel. I would like to have Caleb as a Christian also speak on the Scholar Vid, Dr. Josh, Dr. Kip, Camille, Gnostic Informant. Everyone has different angles, and we may not even agree. That's okay. I just like to have a conversation here. But once we make that claim, we need to address it. And the idea was, how do you address all these miraculous claims? The first question is, once you've made that statement, is asking him back if he would have responded, if he'd allowed us to communicate here, what claim are you talking about and what books are you talking about? Then from there, if he just said the Gospels, okay, now we're dealing with the literature, and this is where me and Caleb might differ. What kind of genre are we dealing with here? How do we assess this? Are these actual miracles? Or are these miracles that are dressed in some type of genre that might be a historical fiction to some degree or something like that? Is this literally historical? How could you address that? Then we can use modern examples. You guys could talk about miracles that happen in other religions, whatever. But if you guys come on the show and you can't just get your point out and then let someone else come on, that's not fair in dialogue. So anyway, I don't even know exactly what where he was claiming, because he went into something else. I was like wanting to address that one issue.
I just didn't understand what he meant by accounts. Like, what are you talking about? The Bible? Are you talking about a specific book of the Bible? Are you talking about Corinthians? Because when you say that, how do you account for, or how do you describe all these accounts, and what accounts are you talking about? And I think he even said James had an account. Like, what's this James account that you're even talking about?
I was waiting.
That's my only problem.
I was waiting. I was like, I dug this thing out. It's dusty. It's covered in dust. I dug this thing out. I'm ready. I'm like, okay, what are you talking about? Show me what what you mean. But
I think he's talking about 1 Corinthians 15:6 would be, or 7, whichever one it is with James, and that's what I'm assuming he's referring to.
Yeah, I still have the bookmark in here from 5 years ago.
I want to address this, right? Nephilim Free. Listen, man. This isn't your channel, number one, right? Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Let you know that, like, I'm hosting this. This is a show where we're addressing 30,000 subscribers. I'm really happy of where I've got, but we're also entertaining what you're bringing to the table. It's not fun when I hear people make 5, 6 claims. Like, if me and Caleb have a discussion and he wants to say the resurrection of Jesus is true, I think it's true, and here's why. I'm going to make some claims. 1 Corinthians 15, I trust Paul on 1 Corinthians 15 that these men experienced something. And I also trust that they went to their death for the thing that they experienced. I trust this narrative, right? That would be something. There's a claim. But we're throwing around, and you say you're an informed apologist, all right? You're throwing around words and passages we want to also engage you on, right? We want to be able to go and poke into these areas with you. But I'm sorry, it didn't seem like that was something that we could even do, because as soon as you made a claim, you want to go on for 5 minutes. You've made 20 claims. We can't even address one of them because we can't really focus on what you're trying to say. I don't know.
It really does. Sorry, I was just gonna say, it really does seem like there was he heard you, right? It'd be hard to convince me that he didn't hear you saying, I'm going to mute you, and yet he kept talking. So, I mean, it really did seem like this was a case of, I want to get kicked so that I can go in the side chat and say, I tried to make my point and they kicked me out. So, I mean,
well, I'm not that kind of guy, man. Caleb is in here. I let Christians, I let Muslims come on. I let everybody come on. Like, I say that because Muslims sometimes think I'm probably not this nice guy, but it's like, nah, dude, like, come on. But if we're going to have a discussion, let's have it. But I can't, after the 4th time or 5th time, you could see he wants to get his words out and not allow. Kip tried to talk multiple times during this, and you're too soft spoken, Kip. You got to be more aggressive,
And I do want to push back a little bit on this, because I see it a lot on this idea that the New Testament authors or members of the early Christian community would have been skeptics. Because when we hear this, we have when people hear this, they have in their imagination an idea of what that means. And from our modern perspective, it's people like Derek, like Neil, like us, who have become suspicious or dubious about non-scientific claims or fantastical ideas that propagate throughout religion. But within the context, within the cultural context of the early believers, the first believers, the people who were in Palestine, who were followers of Jesus or who entered the movement very shortly after, most of these were apocalyptic Jews. And I don't think there's any way that you can apply this label or this idea of skepticism to this particular group of people who would have already been steeped in an apocalyptic expectation for the last days. And that's really, like, you hear it a lot about, with reference to Paul, that Paul was, I've heard this from apologists, that Paul was some great skeptic. No, he wasn't. He was doing the bidding of, if he is to be believed, he was doing the bidding of the Sanhedrin in a zealous fervor to stamp out a religious movement that was countering with consensus Judaism at the time. It's not skepticism.
And that does get painted in Acts. There is that idea that, you know, he's trying to persecute the Christians. And he even admits that in his own letters to some degree. So if you do take the account of Acts into the picture, you can add that as data. But either way, Paul is in line with Judaism of the day in some way. And then, of course, he flips sides. He's convinced of this Jesus movement, or at least it seems.
Yeah, it also depends on how we're defining the word skeptic, because I feel like people nowadays associate that with more like naturalism and secularism. But skeptic in this sense would be someone who is not convinced by the claims of, you know, this religious cult. So it's more it's not really analogous to someone scientifically investigating. It's a better analogy would be if you went to Mecca and started claiming that that Jesus was the Son of God or something, and you would probably not last very long there. But if you went to New York City, no one would care. I mean, you get some names called out, but no one would care as much. So going to Jerusalem, where he had just been crucified, I think is typically what people associate more of saying that this man was not just the Messiah, not just a teacher, but was God himself. That would certainly be violations of laws, and I'm assuming would be blasphemy laws and stuff like that, to say that Jesus was the second person of the Trinity or was Yahweh incarnate. So I think that's typically how I understand people when they talk about skepticism. Not so much so they're going to be skeptical of the claim of a miracle, because they don't have issues with miracles. It's more of the kind of miracle and the context that surrounds it. That no, God raised Jesus from the dead in validation of his claims that he was the Son of God. That, I think, is what people would have had a bigger issue with, is how apologists throw that argument around. So.
Another argument from apologists that I find rather weak is to say that people had the conditions or the possibility of checking the veracity of these claims. If people were scattered around the Roman Empire, and most people did not have a lot of financial means to investigate or even to travel, how would they investigate this stuff? I think it's very, very implausible.
Right.
So
well,
the idea so go ahead.
No, sorry, I'll let you go. I was just going to say, do you mean the gospel, the people reading the gospels, or the original proclamation of the resurrection in Jerusalem? Because I agree with you that...
Yeah, the communities, that were already in place, that read the gospels,
Well, yeah, because yes, that's true. If people were reading the gospels in Rome or Caesarea, or well, not Caesarea, Galatia, or whatever, what have you, then, or even First Corinthians in Corinth, right, when Paul's writing to them, yes, it would be very hard for them to go to Jerusalem and take that trip to do it. I agree. But I think that's more so of when we ask, where was the resurrection first proclaimed? And when you look at the New Testament and also Tacitus and stuff, when it says it was in Jerusalem, that's typically what people say. The people in Jerusalem could have had a better chance of looking than perhaps the people in Caesarea. So I agree with you to a certain extent, but I'm trying to mitigate that a little bit. So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to consider the idea, like how did Christianity spread if Jesus didn't appear to all these other people? I mean, he only appears to these few guys. Their message is somehow convincing enough for the audiences they're going to. And, you know, a lot of the apologists I talk to go, that's the miracle, the Holy Spirit, it required that. But like, we can give modern examples of movements like Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormonism. They convinced people, you know, they've done this, they've convinced people over time to believe in these things. So I wouldn't make that as an argument for the reason that this religion spread is a miracle itself, or, you know, people believe. I think what Dr. Kipps is trying to point out too in the time is people were just open to believing in things. They weren't in a time like today where now I'm like, dude, I don't know about that. You said what? No, that's not true.
But you've got a guy down in Baja, Mexico, that's claiming to be the reincarnated Enlil, Jesus, King Arthur. I mean, it's
still going on.
But isn't the issue more so, are they challenging consensus views, or are they new claims? Because if you have claims if you go to India and you say that a guru went without water for a year, people are going to believe that because that's perfectly normal. But again, that's why I said the Mecca example. I think would they be okay with the claims the Christians were making, or would that be an issue? But if they went around just saying, yeah, Yahweh is great and affirm Judaism, no one's going to care. If you go to other places, so it just depends on what environment you're saying it in. Right?
If I may say this is a very good question you ask, Caleb, because this is something I've been trying to. There's an onion here and there's layers.
Yeah.
I think the problem is, and this is just me speaking openly, a lot of Christians are anachronistically taking what we see. Trinity, he claimed all these things that the Trinity is this, that, all of these ideas, and they're kind of like pumping them back into Paul. And they're saying, Paul ran around preaching the Trinity. He was preaching this, he was preaching that. And all of this is like developed church theology that Paul may not have actually said some of these things. And I think that's the pushback we skeptics say is we don't think Paul thought he was God like that. Okay. We do think he may have been divine. And there's various views in which how they saw or how skeptics are looking at Paul and saying, what does Paul mean here? Now, of course, Christians also say you're also neglecting the canon of scripture's validity. And we would connect all these dots. Whereas we're looking at one book at a time and saying, look, what is Paul teaching? And at the time that Paul's teaching this stuff, is Paul really outside of the milieu? Is he so radically outside to the point where this wouldn't have been something people would have believed? That's something I think scholars would say, no, he's not radically outside. But you get to Luke and John, late 1st century, potentially early 2nd century material. You're talking about a time in which they've had time to like mow over this stuff. Pagan Gentiles are entering into the church and they're converting and they're bringing ideas with them that might allow for some stuff to get a little more developed. I'm throwing it out there just to say, if we take the whole package of what Christians today, Protestant Christians, doesn't matter, even Orthodox Christians, Eastern Orthodox, Catholic, you name it, and we push that back into Paul in some way, we're going to go, there's no way. That's definitely radically different than the Jewish milieu we see Paul working in. But I think that also might conflate in our head, and we think that might make a problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because we do need to see to ask what is the original Christology, and did that develop in the later church? That's certainly a valid question. But I guess also when we're talking about how comfortable people were with it, I don't know, Derek, do you think that Paul was whipped and thrown into prison like he says in Philippians and 2 Corinthians?
I do think he was imprisoned. Yeah, I do think, and I do think it was probably, and I could be wrong here, I think it had a lot to do with he was really stirring up problems at synagogues. He was causing a lot of problems in the Roman Empire. I think that could be the case. It also could be that Jews conspired and said, this guy's a pain in our ass and we need to get this guy off the street. There's not enough data. Like Paul doesn't say, I maybe he does. He's being persecuted, right? So there could be this persecution going on for him preaching a certain type of message that they're not okay with. But there's not enough for me to be confident and say, okay, Paul was in prison because this for sure. We're just going off of his records. That's my thoughts.
So it's possible, but you don't know as far as how plausible it is. It's maybe, but we just don't know, is what you're saying.
I'll go with the data, right? And I'll say he was imprisoned, and it sounds like he was imprisoned for stirring up problems and potentially being a nuisance to the Romans. I mean, imagine if a guy kept coming to the same town, all right, over and over, or different towns in the region, and this guy got all the Jews ready to revolt. I mean, they're throwing stones, they're ready to kill. There's riots going on. They're saying, get this guy out of here, whatever, for whatever he might be teaching that they do disagree with. I don't know. I don't know if it was that big of a deal, or if this is embellished, or if it's really not that big and it's just small groups that are starting to be annoyed at this guy. They want to get him imprisoned. I'm willing to accept that he was definitely imprisoned. And I think there's no problem with saying the Romans killed him and beheaded him, in my opinion. Okay. Some people think he didn't exist, by the way, who actually watch his channel. You'd be shocked. I'm not kidding.
I know. I mean, well, I don't know if Price says he didn't exist, but he doesn't think the Pauline epistles are off. He has like a multiple Paul kind of view, but that is a pretty fringe view, and even Carey doesn't think that. So that's a pretty fringe view in New Testament scholarship.
Yeah, I mean,
not that fringe views can't be right. I don't want to appeal to just authority here, but that is, the data presented for that has not convinced most scholars, I guess, is a better way to phrase that.
I agree with you. I think that I've had a few different scholars on the historical Paul. I don't want to rabbit trail there. I want to allow everyone else to join the chat. But I do think it's interesting that they're like, give us good reasons why he didn't. Like, people will argue, are the Gospels historically reliable? We have good reasons maybe to think, well, we look at other people, other gods, other myths in in the ancient world where these miracles happen. There's a good reason that we think that maybe we shouldn't start with this as historical. We should test things first. But when you get to Paul, it doesn't sound mythologized like that. It sounds like a guy who's frustrated dealing with people who are trying to sway his churches in different directions, and he's trying to correct their doctrines. He's trying to rebuke them. The Corinthians are wild as hell. They don't know how to act. They're just all over the place. They still carry pagan ideas. And he's like, stop. Someone slept with their mother-in-law. I mean, like, just, it sounds like a real Jerry Springer match like we see it today. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, with Paul, I mean, I don't have there's no reason for me to think like Paul didn't exist or whatever, but I do get skeptical when it comes to what he's writing about. And the reasons are, I look at other writers from the time. For example, Pliny the Elder in the 40s is writing an entire encyclopedia, and the topics that he's writing about: deified people, prodigal births, miracles that are reported to have happened. Whether he believed in them or not, he's writing about them. But he doesn't say anything about Jesus or Christianity or anything about 500 witnesses. That didn't. If there was 500 witnesses, I think one of them would have got to him by the time he wrote that. And then I get skeptical when I look at, like, even not even just Pliny the Elder, but even later on, Plutarch, Josephus. Josephus doesn't even mention Paul at all. So I don't know. Maybe if it just wasn't big yet, it just took a little bit longer for Christianity to spread, which makes you wonder: was it really 500 accounts, or was he just kind of throwing a number out there for whatever reason? So I don't know. Those are just questions I have. I don't have the answers to them. I don't even know how I feel about them, but it kind of gives me it makes me feel a little skeptical about 500 people, especially if we have none of their names and none of their accounts. It's just Paul saying there's 500 people.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. I do think the 500 is historical because there's a separate argument from that, because I think that Paul is defining apostleship by who saw the risen Jesus. And so it would be, I feel like if the 500 is not invented, then the issue is that Paul elsewhere talks about false apostles, right? So I imagine this situation going on. If anyone could say, actually, I'm an apostle, I was one of the 500. So then how would you be able to disprove that? You'd have disorder and stuff. So I feel like you'd have to have some kind of system where you know who's an apostle, who's seen Jesus, who hasn't. And that's, Paul says some of them are still alive. So he may know some of them, we don't really know. But that's, to me, why I feel like it would be very hard to keep track of who actually saw Jesus and who didn't, if you didn't have this kind of way to mark who's an apostle and who's not. And so it would be important to know who these people were, because then anyone could just claim that they have. But with as far as I think Pliny the Elder actually does mention Jesus in a different text, does he not? Or am I thinking?
No, the younger, his son.
Oh,
does.
I'm sorry.
Pliny the Elder does not, though. But yeah, that's in the 2nd century. That's early 2nd century.
Sure.
A lot of people get that mixed up. But maybe his father was talking about him, just didn't write him down. I'm fine with that. It makes me skeptical.
How many rabbis do we have? I mean, you could look at Honi the circle drawer. You could look at plenty of other miracle workers who are not mentioned and that stuff. So I don't think that's Jesus was a Jewish rabbi who had a ministry that lasted for 3 years, and then that was it. So I don't think within that 3 years anything else is not contemporary. I just don't see why he or Paul would have really been that big of a deal, especially when you can. And as far as like 500 witnesses go, I would go back to the stuff I said earlier with like maybe comparing this to, and actually the book I'm working on right now. So to preface, I've written 2 other books, and the one I'm doing right now is looking at the resurrection, but it's also looking at not from a historical perspective, but from modern miracles, which is why I put that in the chat earlier, because I think it's super interesting and not really discussed. But I kind of look at it from a term that I call retroactive historiography. So it's taking things we know in the present and comparing them. So to go back to what you're saying about Paul and like 500 witnesses, we do have accounts. Again, I could go to the Egypt one, where you have literally thousands of people seeing this, and there's no question as to this happened. And this is not something that most of us have ever heard of. And we live in an age where there's the internet and the press. If you take that if that happened 2,000 years ago, where it was mostly oral tradition and people are illiterate, it's no surprise to me at all that we don't have very many accounts of this, just because we know stuff like this happens, and at least it's reported to happen. We know there are people who claim to be firsthand witnesses, and it just doesn't get reported that much. And so, and that's kind of points as well, as these don't have to be legends. You do have people who, and you can disbelieve them. I'm not saying they're right, but they will at least say, I witnessed this happen, this miracle. Now we can say they're lying or they're mistaken or whatever, but the point is we don't have to say these are all just late legends. We can say people actually did claim this at the time.
Yeah.
And that could be wrong.
And that's fair enough. That's very fair enough.
If I may say this too, though, this is an interesting point Dr. Price brought up to me, and he said it like many times. I never really thought about it, and he could be right. I always keep that open, right? I always keep like these ideas. I'm never dogmatic because you just don't have very good, like we don't have extra data to like be confident on this level. You know, if Paul mentioned 500 witnesses, and Paul is earlier, and we know Mark knows Paul. Scholarship all across the board, Dale Cialis, and even Christian scholars like Dale and everyone, they recognize Mark knows Paul all day. None of them mention that 500 people saw the risen Christ. Not Mark.
Matthew might, if you take the chapter 28. Some people think the hill appearance with the Great Commission could be the events of the 500.
Yeah, but I mean, he doesn't. Is there 500 in it?
We don't know. He says there were others, but he doesn't give.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
sure.
It would be like, because we know that Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, I don't care if you're a believer or not, they're written to convince the reader. They are written as, this is the truth, and we're trying to get you to believe this because we believe this. That's it. Whether you think motivation's wrong, whatever, doesn't matter. They're writing in a way, they're trying to convince you that this is the Messiah. This is the Son of God. This is the truth. This is clear in their literature. It would be I think it'd be a really important key evidence to say, oh, and 500 saw him rise. Now, Luke does this thing because he's connecting. Is it Luke? Yeah, Luke says that for 40 days, if I'm not mistaken, he's still around. And then, of course, Acts.
It's in Acts where he says 40 days, yeah.
The interesting thing is in Greek, there's also this term for the 120, if I'm not mistaken, or the word Pentecost is so close to the word for 500, if I'm not mistaken, in Greek. This is something that Dr. Price brought out, that there could be a confusion here potentially. That he might be talking about Pentecost in the 1 Corinthians 15 narrative. There's also another later embellishment that we know that talks about 500 witnesses. And he's wondering if this creed in 1 Corinthians 15, he says it like this, and William Lane Craig like tried to mock him in the debate, that you believe this is an interpolation within an interpolation. How ridiculous. But Dr. Price is like, yeah, I think that this is a creed that has developed and is put into Paul's letters. Is he right? I don't know. I don't pretend to be like, yeah, Dr. Price is,
But the passage could be authentic and still be the result of oral tradition, isn't it? If Paul is writing in the 50s, it's almost 20 years of oral tradition building up, isn't it? What's so difficult to accept as a plausible explanation that, people pass on the story and then the number just keep building up?
Right. Well, yeah.
Can
that would
I
depend. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, because I'm listening and everything, and I just instantly made a parallel to slavery times in America, where a lot of things were passed down via orally because the slaves were not allowed to write and read. So a lot of families in America who are descended from African slaves got a lot of their traditions and a lot of the stories passed down orally because they couldn't read and write. It wasn't until later when generations were allowed to go to school and to learn to read and write that they were able to write down some of these things. And in actuality, a lot of the things that they wrote down were wrong because of the oral tradition. So maybe in the case of the apostles and all that other stuff, maybe a lot of things were lost because of the oral transition. Because we know a lot of those people back then, unless you were, born into a wealthy family, did not read nor write.
Yeah.
So maybe there's where the disconnect is.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Derek.
No, I was just going to say, in that vein of thought, I know that Dr. Bart Ehrman talks about the illiteracy, but he actually is quoting other scholars who actually have done the work. And they're saying that the illiteracy rate was really high and that there was it wasn't all over the place, it wasn't a common thing. So that could be the case. And I think it's all right to say that that's probably likely. I don't put too much confidence in this without actually knowing exactly on the ground. But I think that would play a role. So Camille's probably onto something there. I don't want to hog the discussion, but I know I need to wrap things up here shortly. If you guys have anything specific you want to get off your chest, feel free to. And Camille, stick around when everyone's gone. And Caleb, I got your email. We're gonna do a show, bro, for sure.
Thanks.
Subscribe to Gnostic Informant too, and Kip, and everybody. Just do it, okay?
Thanks. Yeah, I guess. Well, I'll go back to what Gnostic Informant. I really like you, by the way, Gnostic Informant. So I appreciate this comment. I like everyone here. You're all great. No, well, yeah, just to go back to one of the things with like arguments from silence, because there are times in which, you'll read Matthew 27, 51 to 52, and you're like, how would the saints are risen? You're like, how would no one else write about this, right? But I still hesitate to think that that's a good argument for things like the 500, because you could look at, so take something like the Ascension, right? Luke is the only one who actually narrates the Ascension narrative. You don't see this in Matthew or Mark. Paul believes in the Ascension because he talks about Jesus being ascended to the right hand of God. John implies that when he says, "I have not yet ascended to the Father." So John and Paul both know about this tradition, and yet they don't narrate it. John never gives the story of Jesus ascending; he just implies that he will. So I think you can have people who clearly know about the tradition and still don't mention it. You could also look at something like the expulsion of the Jews in Rome, which is mentioned in Acts, but Josephus and Philo never mention it. It's not even mentioned until Suetonius, and so. You think that would be a pretty big deal. I don't think anyone even discussed when Pompeii was destroyed either until 25 years later. So the idea that people just didn't talk about this is not that surprising to me, especially when you have small oral communities where it wouldn't be that. And so that's just kind of what I would say to that. But that's why I think using modern parallels are interesting as well. But going back to what I was going to say, that you do see even in today's world, the largest growing denomination in Christianity today is actually charismatics, Pentecostals, and that's mostly in the third world. And you do see large groups of people converting because they believe that they've seen signs and wonders. And I just think when you compare that to Acts, while this isn't a proof, it is interesting that these are parallel. And it's saying if we know today that this can happen, that very large groups of people can repent, can convert to Christianity because they believe, they at least think they've seen someone risen from the dead or healed. It's not so much of a stretch to see that in Acts and be like, well, look, there's some historical parallels there, because you see very similar things in Acts. You also see, and this is something that I spend a whole chapter on in the book that I'm working on, because I think it's very under discussed. You do see people who, from all other accounts, have very little knowledge of Christianity converting because they think Jesus has appeared to them. Actually, the Church Father Origen mentions this, I believe, in Contra Celsum. He talks about people like Paul who are very adamantly against Christianity, and then they have a vision of Jesus that converts them. In fact, there was a New Testament scholar named Hugh Montefiore who actually, he was Jewish, and he said he didn't even know anything about Christianity. And when he was in his teens, he had an experience of Jesus that appearing to him saying, "Follow me," and that caused him to convert. And he said, this probably wasn't psychological, because I literally didn't know anything about Christianity. I didn't know who Jesus was. You see this very common in Muslim countries. In fact, in some areas like Turkey, it's estimated as high as 30% of conversions are from things like that. So I think this is just a really interesting concept. And for me, I think when we talk about the resurrection stuff, although I think history is important, and I think the historical evidence is really interesting, I think that modern evidence should not be taken in isolation. And I think when we take these and put it onto it to say, okay, if Jesus wasn't risen from the dead, how surprising would it be that people would have these experiences, that people would be able to be healed in Jesus' name? Whereas if Jesus was still alive today and active in the world, it would be less surprising. So that's just kind of the methodology that I like to take and look at, and I think it's just really fascinating for me personally. But I guess I'll just throw that out there. So
thanks, Caleb. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for showing up today too. Go ahead, Neil. Sorry.
No, I wanted to agree on one thing that I acknowledge is that we live in a world today where everybody has access to paper and pen, and we can all write. We're all educated. Back then, most people weren't educated, couldn't write, and you had to go to a scribe, and papyrus wasn't cheap. So I will acknowledge that there is some plausibility saying that not everybody's going to write down what they see. So I'm just kind of agreeing with you on that part.
Sure.
And Kip, do you guys want to add anything here, ScholarVid?
No, just keep up the good work. Congrats on the 30K, and you're providing enormous value to a lot of people. So keep it up, man.
Hey, I'm not
for
stopping.
sure, Derek.
Like,
That's awesome.
No joke, not going to stop. I love doing this stuff. I love learning more and having fun, free people from some of the harmful stuff. Like I said, I'll repeat this again. I don't care if people believe. I mean, my mom and dad are Christians, right? My brother is a Christian. I've got family members in the South that are Christians, but some of their ideology, I'm like, yeah, that's keeping us from going forward. And there's some of it that's harmful. I wish people all started to look at things the way that I do, but at the very least, it'd be cool to see people start to get rid of the harmful ideologies, these really bad practices. And I'm doing the same thing now as I'm focusing on Islam. I think that that's something more people should consider doing. And even in the Christian community, right? Address the problems with some of the really harmful things we see out there within Christendom. And I hate to say it all boils down to what the text is saying, but a lot of Christians will say that's what the text is saying. So if everyone wants to go along and reinterpret things to mean something different, go for it. But I'm not gonna stop doing what I'm doing just because people believe, and I'm gonna upset people's feelings. That's not why I do MythVision. I do it either way. I know it's gonna hurt some people's feelings. It hurt mine when I started looking into these things, but I don't want to be a hater of people. Maybe I'm taking down the ideologies or attacking the ideology, but people, divorce yourself from those ideologies. That's the thing. Don't make it who you are to the point where you now hate me because I'm attacking your ideology. Like, that's something I don't want to see happen. So
Yeah, I just wanted to say that a lot of people cannot separate their ideology from their faith. They think of it as it is a part of themselves. So what you're doing by, trying to bring information to light to people who just go by their faith, they aren't willing to excuse me, in my smoke detector, aren't willing to see beyond what they believe and just be like, yeah, this could be wrong. Like in today's conversation, there's some things I have little notes I'm going to be looking up myself, thanks to everybody that came in, so I'm always open to learning. And again, very appreciative and thankful for Derek to bring all this stuff to light, because a lot of people still don't know. And a lot of people would rather prefer to be in the dark with their faith than have a glimmer of truth to learn more. So
I appreciate it. Seriously. Yeah. Caleb, we gotta definitely hang out sometime, man. Kip, did you have something?
Oh, just if anyone's interested, I just thought I'd throw this out there. The way that scholars do these studies of literacy in the ancient world is actually by investigating and collecting data from documentary texts, which are like the common everyday, you can't call it literature. It's the common everyday written communication that takes place throughout the Roman Empire. So what they're doing is they're collecting all this stuff, and they're looking at it, and they're evaluating it on the basis of whether or not it was written by a professional scribe, or whether or not this is written by somebody who obviously has a rudimentary grasp of some of the mechanics of the language, but not much. Whether there are indications that this is something that was collected by someone who couldn't write. So it's pretty fascinating. It's interesting stuff. Just thought I'd throw that out there. And the estimates that you tend to see for the region, for Palestine, of course, it varies. For Palestine, are between 2 to 4 or 5%. I've seen it as high as 10, but that seems to be a minority position. But it's about 2 to 4 or 5% of the male population. And sorry.
No. I interrupted you.
Okay, I was just gonna say one more thing too, because you probably have Canadian viewers, a handful of them. We have a federal election tomorrow, so everybody needs to get out and vote, because that's the responsible thing to do.
Go about your business in Canada, ladies and gentlemen. Shireen Smith, I'm sorry I missed these super chats. Says, congratulations. What you do is so important. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you complimenting and encouraging and, just showing me that someone cares. I really do appreciate that. Mr. Monster, always coming through, says, is there such thing as free will? Can you choose to be born? Help me understand. Oh, Lord. Really? At the end of the podcast, bro? Like, you do know that this is like a question that is...
Oh, goodness.
You can do a whole show on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 hours to go. Hold on.
Who goes first? Another 3 hours.
Oh, goodness, you can't. Some people can't answer a yes or no. It's kind of a tricky one. There's some interesting things, but I guess Caleb, we'll ask you as a Christian. Obviously, you take free will is a thing, correct?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, libertarian free will. Yeah.
Okay, so you're definitely not Calvinist.
Oh no.
Okay. Well, you're lucky.
Yes, I know. When I heard your testimony talking about Calvinism, I'm like, oh, that's where he went wrong. No, I'm kidding. But
oh, you bad!
I have lots of Calvinist friends, so I have to play.
It's all good. No, dude, there's definitely a mindset that comes to it. There's something like a weird poison attached to the mindset. I don't know. We'll talk about that later too. I think we can collab. Even we could do some work where people will be like, "What?"
Yeah,
there's an atheist and a Christian coming together on this. It's
in the modern age, who could think that people could get along, right? Yeah. But no, to answer your question, I'm what's called a Molinist. So I think that God contingently rearranges the world based on our free decisions. So it's kind of complicated to explain in 30 seconds or whatever. But I'm also a Christian universalist, so I'm not a Calvinist to that.
You're a universalist.
Not a pluralist. There's a difference. A Christian universalist.
Okay.
So we would say that Christianity is the only way you have to be a Christian to go to heaven, but eventually everyone will become a Christian. So that's typically the way they say it. People in hell will be able to repent and accept Christ. Is typically how that goes. So
interesting.
I've done debates on that too. Yeah, it's an interesting.
That's a much prettier picture. My mom could probably use talking to you. She freaks out.
I would like to think it's a prettier picture, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I like the idea of universalism, right? Like, I mean, if you're going to preach a message, that would be one that I think I could get behind, right? I'm not saying I believe it ontologically, but nonetheless, it's like much nicer. Thank you for not wanting the all-loving God to cook me in hell and in the world he created, right? So, I like that idea that it's better. It's not ongoing. And then Alan Bird super chatted. He says, just want to show my support. Congrats on 30K. Here's to the next 30K. Alan, you're truly a supporter, man. You've been there from day one. Thank you so much. Everyone here, you're the reason, right? Even the people on the panel, like you disagree with me, you agree with me, it doesn't matter. You guys are all part of the growing of MythVision, and we're going to continue to grow. Thank you all for joining me today. Seriously.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Look, I got to plug it for everybody watching. Here is the Patreon. I just dropped this one today. It is a very interesting show on Paul within Judaism. New perspectives on Paul from Matthew Thiessen. Really brilliant mind. His book.
I went to school with Matt Thiessen.
Did you?
And yes, he's brilliant. Yeah.
Awesome. Very clever. The way he described the Gentile problem. I hate to say it makes a lot of sense for those who think Paul's like anti-Torah, anti-Judaism. No, he explained it pretty interesting. 12 apostles, were they historical, right? All of these various videos, this is a way not only you can support me, you can join for as little as $3 a month, $3 US if you're from a different country. And you access hundreds of videos that are not made public. They will eventually maybe see the live day on YouTube. And all thanks to my friend Neil from Gnostic Informant on a lot of these edits were done by him. This was done by him. This was done by him. A lot of the ones I already passed are done by him. So consider joining and checking that out. You guys, there's so much more. We have like 50 something videos we're currently editing from my 7-day trip with Dr. Dennis R. McDonald and Richard Carrier that will be on the Patreon. And it will slowly find its way to the world out there on YouTube. Go subscribe to Gnostic Informant, my friend, who actually made a lot of these video edits possible. And I really wanted to give him a shout out and help grow his channel. He's starting out. He's doing really good, better than MythVision did at its start. But you guys can help change that by subscribing, liking, commenting, growing what he does in support. Me and him have different positions, right? He thinks a little different than me. Doesn't change us from being friends. So please subscribe to him. It's in the description if you're looking for the link to his channel. Kip Davies. Kip Davies. Is that not it?
Just read it. Can you read the name on the screen?
I'm not going to lie.
Sound it out.
Bro, I get confused between Davis, right? Because in America, we have Davis, and then there's Davies.
One has an E, one doesn't. I think it's a difference.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I'm telling you, I'm illiterate. I'm illiterate, okay? And I actually had someone critique me in a comment section. They got mad at me for not pronouncing your name right. I'm not even kidding you. And it's so not my fault. I just don't mean to
For
do
the
it.
record, Derek, you also said it was Kalanda. You said Canada. So I'll just throw that out there as well. When in the super chat that I sent out. So
I said it was what?
You said Canada and it was Kalanda. It's a region in Spain. When I said
I think the chat said Canada though, didn't it?
I go back and look. I'm pretty sure I typed it right, but we'll see. But
I don't even know.
Reverse back and look. I'm pretty sure I spelled it right.
All right. I'm sure you did.
Subscribe to his channel.
I saw Canada too.
Okay. We'll look back and figure it out. We'll look back at the chat and figure it out.
Look, if you haven't seen this documentary, I'm not kidding you. Kip literally blows the mind of everyone watching it. Josh McDowell has mythologized his personal testimony. Okay. Put it point blank. You can read into it negative motives, bad motives, whatever. I don't care. The bottom line is his narrative of his own story has been embellished over time. It's really worth checking out. I thought it was really interesting how he went about showing this, and he wouldn't have paid any attention if they weren't making manuscript claims. That's what really brought him with his specialty into this idea and said, whoa, what first century Mark? Hold on, we need to look at this. And then you start to look deeper into Josh McDowell's testimony. I bet he's a wonderful guy. He's probably an amazing person. Take that away, still doesn't mean he's not embellishing his narrative. I've embellished narratives. I might accidentally do that from time to time on the show. Caleb Jackson, I didn't know where your YouTube channel was. So
yeah, there you go. Proselytize or apostatize. It's a show I co-host.
It's right here or here.
No, it's the channel you're on, right? Just click the. Yeah. That's
okay.
I actually do have like my own channel, but it's only it's not very big. But
we need to grow that.
Blow it up, everyone.
Hey, if you want to be a guest on there, we can have. If any of you all want to come on sometime,
I would love to.
Right.
Yeah,
I would love to. Yeah.
We'll stay in contact.
Proselytizer or
apostatizer.
Or
I know
apologist?
it's NT Wright said it was a mouthful, but which it kind of is.
Say it again.
Proselytize or apostatize. Like proselytize like evangelism, apostatize like leaving the faith. It's like the kind of the dichotomy there, which I think it's a clever name, but it is hard to pronounce.
I like that. I like the premise.
It is Pora is how we just say the alliteration of Pora. Yeah.
Pora.
So there you go.
Cool.
All right. Actually, we have a show coming on in 9 minutes that I'll be on. So I figured this was about to end anyway. So
is that this right here? Two waiting. Yep. Well, go jump on it. Go check them out. Yeah. I just subscribed. So
hey, there you go.
Yeah. There you go. You guys got to subscribe.
Yeah, I'll go on your show. You can go on mine.
I just did too.
I
just did too.
Hey, there you go.
Is that John Oliver you're having on your show?
No, he looks like John Oliver, doesn't he? No, it's Kyle Allender. He's a theist who I think is like an idealist or something. Yeah, so they're talking about metaphysics and stuff, which is not my area of specialties. I'm more into like New Testament history and miracles and stuff like that. But I still have a lot of friends and all connections. I probably know people who know about every like individual argument. So I try to keep my networking field pretty good, which is why I talk to people like you all as well, because you're informed. I know Derek talks to all the scholars and he knows a lot of people, so it's great.
It's good to be that way. Yeah,
of course.
I mean, I have bias and I'm open about them, and you probably have them too. We all have them. Not probably. I know we do, but I mean, like, I'm open about what mine are, and you are open about yours, and I'd love to have those conversations, bro. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, we'll work something out.
All right, I'm gonna leave with this old school intro. This is what I used to use. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and never forget. I mean, you guys know we are
MythVision.
Join our Patreon